Welcome back to the second day of Octane Collegiate in a row. Yesterday, we got to watch as 10 teams secured their place in the grand final, and today, we're down to the lower semifinals to see which 5 teams from lower semifinal B will be securing their place in the lower finals next week against the bottom 10 teams from the lobby we saw yesterday. It all kind of intertwines, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And this is definitely teams have to be feeling pressure today, right? Because like yesterday it was okay, if you're bottom 10 you go down to the lower semifinal, but you're not out yet. Today it is all or nothing, and it's not only all or nothing, but it's not top 10, it's top 5. You have to be really high up on that leaderboard if you're going to be looking to go into tomorrow, because we're taking 5 from this lobby, we're taking 5 from the other lower semifinal lobby as well. So teams have to be bringing their A game today.
Yeah, yesterday we saw a number of teams who were a little shaky through most of the first few games. There was, I think, CSULB, who won the last game of the day, and in spite of coming in at like 13 or 14 points, which is a pretty not so good day through the first 5 games, only having that many points, they were still able to make it work with a win at the end. That's not going to be enough to get you through this time, because they were not in the top 5 over the course of the day yesterday, so you need to have at least a couple of significant performances over the course of one day. But still very exciting to see how that cutoff point's going to change. Surely going to be higher than just 30 points like it was yesterday. Yeah. But very, very exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, it also means that when we start getting to those later games, all of a sudden it becomes really important. Are you actually winning? Are you getting yourself up into the points? Because there will be a game 5 or 6 that some teams are just not relevant for anymore.
Oh, 100%. As we get into game number 1, we'll be starting on Storm Point. 20 squads in the lobby today. Only had 19 yesterday, so happy to see the full lobby being occupied, at least to the fullest extent as possible. And what we saw a lot of yesterday, Eyes 1000, was that we saw a ton of the new shields that are oh so meta. Just from what we can see right now from Incroc and Wheatwoot, 2 more shields being brought, and it seems like it'll be a lot of Gibraltar, Lifeline, Newcastle especially, and it may look like some 3 strikes gameplay out there, depending on how these fights start off.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how often teams were just not going down. You lost a member, but every time somebody tried to push after getting a knock, it was okay, well, we have Newcastle getting them up. We have maybe Lifeline getting them up. There's so many things like Gibby Dome or the Newcastle Tactical that are going out and just buying time, making it impossible to really capitalize on anything. I'm probably going to see a lot of the same here. We're already seeing the same Newcastle, Gibby, Pathfinder across a lot of these teams. And it just means, cool, we're going to be waiting for a while before anybody goes down.
Well, one thing we talk about with these new team compositions is the lack of rotational capability, and a lot of teams are going to have to rotate pretty far for this ring. It seems to be pulling more towards North Pad, maybe Wall, but yeah, we see that second ring, and it is just pulling straight up towards the North Pad, so a lot of these teams that are running with pretty much only the Pathfinder to help their rotations are going to have to make it up to North Pad to challenge SDSU, San Diego State University, up by that North Pad. And again, they're not going to be doing it with the best ability to get across the map quickly.
It looks like we're getting really similar compositions to what we had yesterday. There's a couple Maggies, there's a couple Lifelines, there's a Catalyst. We do have a Watson, and I've seen a little bit of Newcastle Watson. That is so good at playing zone, and especially looking at what we got right now here, we're going to be going up into the trenches in North Pad. Watson loves being there. If that team can get up there early, SJSU Blue, and just hang out in those trenches, they are going to be almost impossible to push.
And SJSU Blue, one of the teams who, at least when I was watching last season, they were consistently contenders. Disappointed to see them in the lower bracket, but still very much a threat, so excited to hopefully see some of that Watson in that late game action, as it is on a team who certainly can make it to the late game. But for the most part, Newcastle, Pathfinder, Gibraltar, so safe to say that at least Newcastle and Path are dominating the lineup so far. And so far it just seems like a lot of teams still focusing on getting that rotate up towards the top left. We can already see teams starting to make their way towards checkpoint, but only really the team that landed at North Pad is up there just yet. So a lot of hope for like that Watson team you were talking about to get to those trenches and find a spot. Because this is kind of like Skyhook Zone that we saw yesterday, where there are a lot of different spots you can play if you work your way into the trenches the right way.
Yeah, I mean, the big problem is going to be going through checkpoint, because there's so many choke points in checkpoint. If you are not running a Valk, which no team, actually no, Liberty Red is running a Valkyrie, but they are the only team, I believe, that is running a Valk. You're likely not going to be able to avoid having to go through there. And it's rough in there. If you're not going around on Down Beast, trying to walk through checkpoint is going to get you stuck here, which we're already seeing a little bit of action near and around there with CSUF Orange. They are trying to get some poke out before they start getting deep into a fight, and this being so centralized is really scary.
Certainly is. CSUF Orange, though, still in a pretty solid spot. All things considered. Getting walked on by a team that's just south of them, and it looks like they're getting caught up. That's two different teams getting caught up very far away. They're not even into the first ring. And then that rotate into checkpoint they'll probably have to make at some point. They'll go through one or two of a couple of choke points, and Liberty Red, the team on the other side, with a good sentinel shot from Jacked Up to open it up. Not quite able to land the second one. But even still, we talked about this so much yesterday. It's really tough to find enough damage to properly engage off of in the current meta because of how fast it is to get those reses off and get heals back on your teammates. Teams are going to need to see a lot of damage and more than just one knockdown before they can comfortably engage a team that they were, taking some pot shots at.
Yeah, it's going to be tough here. And they do have to just keep their eyes open, because this is a spot that a lot of teams are going to want to rotate through. I'm a little worried at just how long this poke battle is taking. You can see just a lot of teams moving in and around that section, and if you take too long, it's going to look bad. Here we have our Horizon ult coming out from USU Blue.
Wow. And a nice shot from Wackety to start things off the back of his own ultimate. Looking for more on the other side. It doesn't quite get to finish, though. And it's Howl and Giggler who are still standing, but Giggler taken very low, knocked down. Howl barely keeping himself up. And it was a great opening from that one Horizon, but they're getting third-partied, and only one player left standing. OSO, as they move forward with the nade ahead of them, looking for the full wipe. Can't quite find it, though, because I think there's another completely different team that is now coming through.
Everybody has been rotating a little bit slow on this, and that's what happens here. Everybody's moving in at the same time because they have to. Ring is continuing to push them in. And it's going to mean, okay, we're going to get people pinched here. We're going to get people pinched here. And you're never going to feel safe to actually take a 3v3 because there's always more teams behind you. Look at these 3 choke points here in Wall. We have so many teams in Wall. We have teams down in that middle area there by Cascade Falls. And then we have teams on the south. All these teams are just going to ram into each other like a traffic jam as they try to get into the map.
And so many teams getting caught up on one another. These mill teams getting caught up near one another. The two teams we were watching earlier don't seem to have moved too far from that choke point that we saw that engagement at. That was Liberty Red, one of them. So it doesn't seem like it's the easiest early game. Like you said, a lot of slow rotates, and then a lot of teams who are already fighting for those god spots really quickly. It's kind of nobody in the middle making that rotate. You're either far out towards the edge, still trying to get into ring number 2, or you're in the thick of it like UCSD Navy, fighting over some of the best spots. Unfortunately, ring number 3 going to pull away from them, so these bubble houses not going to be the best places to play beyond ring 2.
Yeah. A lot of teams playing out of these nuts, which will be good for a while, but this ring almost assuredly going to be taking us more to the west of here. Don't believe this ring is going to pull in this direction, and that means this is a spot that will be a rough rotate here because there's so much open ground. So the Pathfinder is going to have to come out very, very clutch, and I don't know if I trust it to get over as far to the trenches as some of these teams need.
I'm not sure I do either. It might be one of those north side pulls out towards one of the fingers. Oh, already cracked on one. Barely alive is the Newcastle who makes it in. Maverick Purple barely not able to take that kill onto, I believe that is UCSD Navy. Rotating into the opposite side bubble just to try and keep themselves up a bit. And it is. Turbo in the gang. Barely make it over here, but it's it's going to be those next few rings that pull away from them that really do that damage. For now, though, content to try and get the poke in that they can, as 2 of the 3 members of UCSD Navy have gotten to purple. And look at that. One heck of a rotate by the team all the way out in the water, but it looks like they're going to be okay.
Yeah, we're going to just see a lot of poke right now. Nobody's going to really want to engage, especially because look at how populated things are getting. A lot of those teams, the traffic jam is pushed through a bit for now, and a lot of these teams don't want to be the ones to take a fight, because as soon as you do, it's a domino effect of teams flying in for a third party one after the other.
And here they come for that initial fight that can get third party off of. It's FSU Garnet with a massive play, and it's Dakeson
So clean.
able to clean things up.
Yeah, just a
2
really
kills.
fast fight there. Just really, really simple. They get in, get out, and that's exactly what you need to have happen in this scenario, because if that fight goes for too long, you might end up in this kind of a situation where Maverick Apex Purple go down.
Yeah, I think that's the team we were trying to watch valiantly rotate through the entire ocean without too much to assist. And, well, it plays to your advantage for a bit being so far away from everybody else, but eventually you do have to get closer to other people, and there is literally no cover to work with inside of that water, and so you end up just not quite getting too far. Ring continues to pull towards that no man's land out in the middle, not quite pulling to the launch pad buildings, not quite pulling over to the trenches or the terrace or the cannon or anything like that. It's just going to be a lot of rocks and probably a lot of open space with only a few, maybe 4 spots that are probably going to be available later on. So you don't want to be the first team to get there because you don't want to get shot at by everybody in that open space, but you got to get there soon enough. Otherwise, other teams are going to have it nicely set up for themselves. It's about playing that balance really well.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect this ring to kind of pull back towards the trenches a little bit here. That would be my thought, but a lot of teams already kind of setting themselves up inside the main building in North Pad. This is what's a little tough, too, about playing in these trenches. If you don't have something like the Watson, these nades can be a problem. And now we're also looking at something like the Maggie that could just constantly throw out the drill. Has 2 stacks on that drill for EA OSU, and
Whoa.
Nice shots on the Trident, just gonna wipe OSO out.
Yeah, they just were not high HP enough to take that Trident. Only hit a couple of bursts of the Nemesis, did about 20 damage or so, it looked like, and gets a knockdown onto a player on the Trident. So ill-advised rotate from OSO, but it seems like they were put in a spot where they had to make a big play, and it is going to continue to pull up and to the left, which
Did not expect that.
yeah, I thought it was going to be more in the no man's land. You were expecting it to come back towards the trenches. It's actually going to be
Towards the finger again.
yeah, towards
Yeah.
the finger a little bit.
Yeah, heading us back in there, and that's going to be so tough for these teams on the southern side here. Already they have to make a bit of a move to get into the next ring. They're going to be fighting it out right now as UVU Black are dealing with a little bit of pressure their way. Going to use their cooldowns to just back off and will successfully disengage. But now everybody on that southeastern side needs to move because we have 40 seconds before round 3 starts to close.
Yeah, just about near that Trident landing spot. And it's often so reluctantly chosen as one of the later on drafted spots in the new POI drafts. The CSUF Orange still sat towards here, but can't seem to decide if they want to engage or just try and hold their post for now, but this will not be a holdable position in about 40 seconds.
Oh, Gibby
because
ult.
here comes the ring, and yeah, Gibby ult right on top of them. And they do not look very comfortable. They'll have to make a decision to move, and there are about 4 or 5 other teams over there who've got to make that same decision.
Yeah, luckily the Newcastle tactical does not get destroyed anymore, so if you do have a wall, you can actually use that to block Gibby ult or Bangalore ult, find safe space there. Does provide that little bit of protection. We're looking at OU Esports right now, who are in prime position right with a longbow, gold longbow. Doesn't have a lot of shots on that left, so might get a little bit hairy. UCSD Navy are also now getting deep into a fight. Mastiff shots landing big here, and they are going to get that win, a big win. Kill leader as well, but they got to move because the ring's coming.
That's what I was talking about with these teams left over here. You've got about 30 more seconds, and you have to be quick and decisive. It would seem that they just weren't quite decisive enough, and UCSD Navy, they won the fight, but they're not going to get much further than that because by the time they win it, trying to stick a res with the Newcastle at the same time as you have to rotate away from the ring, and it's just not a desirable position to be in at all. SJSU Blue on the complete other end of the map. They're towards the northwest side, and the ring continues to pull in their direction. They could have a very beneficial spot towards some of these later rings, and it'll just be about slightly maneuvering themselves just a bit to navigate around where that ring's going to maybe close out some of the edges of where they're playing for the moment, but it's going to keep pulling up to them, and it still does. It will only pull up and to the left.
Yeah, going to continue here towards a little bit far from where SDSU are. Nice finish there. This is going to get a little sketch here. Still a lot of teams on the southern side that are going to keep pushing upwards here. It's now a question of, do the teams that have set themselves up early, have they gotten enough deep in the trenches here? Have they gotten enough shield value and Evo points for themselves? Or are these teams coming in with red shields going to wipe the floor with them in a 3v3?
We were just on board with OSU, that's Oklahoma State University. They were winners of the split that ended just about a year ago, the fall split of last season. Now TTU Red, other significant player in seasons past, trying to make an aggressive play. And this is that decisive push with more than 30 seconds to go. You have to decide to take that fight now, but I think Inverno-Blade's been left out on his own. He does manage one, but Kaiju, we're going to bend it off for just a little bit longer, and it looks like the TTU teammates decided to back off instead. So Inferno Blade basically being left on his own up here, but Twigs and Godfather eventually do come through, and they save Private Newcastle, winning the 3 versus 3, but they've got to rotate right now.
Yeah, a very sketchy move there. Does work out for them. They're gonna try and move themselves forward, but it's just always, every time we take a look around, anybody who's not set in is going to have to fight their way in, and it's not going to be a fun time. Even TN Tech Esports, they are way off the ring right now, and they are going to be pushed. These rampart walls are not going to help them enough.
Not nearly doing enough work. Aqua forced away. Tonto seems to be safe, and Aqua barely keeping themselves alive. As UVU Black starts to make the aggressive play up, Gibraltar bubble so they don't get popped by teams from far away, but Incroc still on the wrong side of a lot of shots, but his teammates have come through, and they will make it work. They've taken that entire side of the ring to themselves, and everybody else fighting over the much more densely populated area towards North Pad itself.
Yeah, it's a little tough, though, because, yeah, they have all that space to themselves, but they don't have cover over there. Hopefully, the hope is you walk forward and you don't have to worry about teams fighting you because they're already pre-engaged here. We're already seeing some Gibby ults being thrown down, damage being put onto Newcastle walls. People are trying to take some space for themselves because they realize how tight it is going to get in just a couple of seconds.
RMU Colonials, one of those teams that'll have to move soon. Fortunately, thanks to the Newcastle, they're able to tuck into this corner and keep themselves up without having done a ton of damage so far this game, but certainly still reason to move forward. Not the hardest rotate in the world for them, though. And everybody, we were noticing on the map that a lot more teams towards this side of the map going to be very happy to see that this next ring is still sticking in pretty much the same neighborhood. Looks like SDSU want to play this height for as long as they possibly can. I don't know how safe they'll be up here when the ring starts to close, but for now, they're still finding shots and knockdown and a Godfather for Tangy, and no finish found, but still great damage and great poke.
It wastes time. There's only 10 seconds before the ring starts to move, and that team's got to waste time getting their third back up before they move, and they've got teams all around them in that building. It's going to be an ant swarm there as they fly out.
Oh, SJSU Blue seem to have the read onto RMU Colonials. They're going to have to move forward soon. Nade not doing much damage for Fix, and now they're getting bubbled on. Newcastle, in response, going to pop the ult and the mobile shield and just prolong this fight as long as possible, but nobody fighting each other means eventually the ring's just going to get them both. So someone has to take that initiative soon. EAOSU find their way into the next ring, and they want to just tuck into this wall, but it's too early to do this, and these shields are letting them have that availability to play this spot for a little bit longer, but once they fall, they've got to make a decision. It's Comtom Chamchisu trying to go for the push forward, gets one, but his whole team gets knocked in response, and KSU Black will be one of the top 6 teams remaining.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you don't have that that Gibby Dome to try and play around. Once you have to push forward, your defensive, all your defensive cooldowns are gone. You can't push forward with the Newcastle wall. You can use the tactical, but the tactical doesn't give you as much. The Dome lets you take space and lets you walk into buildings just like this.
And Liberty Red about to go down. RMU Colonials with a great takeout. SDSU, though, dropping on them from the height. They think they had the third party, and it wasn't anyone getting knocked on RMU, but they'll all eventually get knocked by SJSU. So a beautiful push from the height is going to make it top 4 teams remaining, with UVU Black hoping to make it 3. A lot of shots landed, another crack for Lawless. But that team on the bottom side just not quite dying yet. They're just not really fully safe there, and a member of SDSU has also gone down.
Yeah, it's going to be a little tough for them to make their push forward, because they are going to have to move out pretty shortly here. Things are going to get a little ugly. The problem is, too, they have a team right below them, so they will have not a fun time moving, because they're probably just going to 3v2 right from the start. SDSU also running out. Well, maybe not. They're just dropping all.
Yeah.
I thought they were running out of consumables. No, they're just all on the ground.
Yeah, no. Want to make sure my shields are your shields, my friends. SJSU probably going to be the first ones to have to move. Might get taken down by the team far away. I think KSU Black have a good chance at taking down SDSU once they have to drop from the height. Viking Cap taken very low, and San Diego State just trying to delay the drop as long as physically possible. KSU want to get them once they go for it. And the push out, actually really good for KSU, because they don't even really have to fight this. They could just wait for everybody else to look straight at San Diego State.
Yeah, well, up at the high ground, they are the ones that are being focused, and that will be multiple players going down. SDSU is out. 3 squads left. KSU Black, honestly, in prime position to be able to take this one here. Gibby ult gonna go down.
And that is just to try and force them off for a little bit longer. Now they're the ones getting pushed. I thought they were going to be able to third party something, but KSU Black have to win a fight themselves. Elixirs has gone down and Enlighten has been cracked. And so it's not the best situation, but they do finish off SJSU Blue. But where is the third party? There it comes, and UVU Black are able to make it work. Everybody else eats each other alive, and from the end of the finger, they just walk forward and take control of the first game.
Yeah, really well done. Able to push forward and take that. Honestly, a very slow game, kind of as we expected, but we did see a little bit of aggression. I think going up into the north there, those choke points were really critical on just how many teams either got in a little bit limping or went out very early. We lost, I think, like 5 or 6 teams before we even got into the checkpoint area.
Yeah, it didn't really feel like a lot of teams knew 100% whether they wanted to, rotate in, whether they wanted to go a different direction, if they wanted to try and take a fight early. And so we saw a lot of people, when they encountered someone else, just kind of get a little indecisive. We saw a lot of that in the early game. And, well, the teams on the right end of that ended up with some KP, a little more loot, a little bit better of Evo shields, and they were able to rotate in just fine. But a lot of teams on the wrong end of that, like you had said. And so, as a result, a lot of teams go down a lot earlier than maybe we would have expected, especially for a zone where you feel like so many teams are able to play pretty safely around North Pad until rings like 3 or 4. But we weren't really seeing a lot of those spots being occupied. And so more opportunities for some of those teams from the edge to start to come through.
Yeah, we'll see. We're going to take a look at our leaderboard after game number 1, and it is KSU Black with the 13 kills going up into first place, 22 points overall. UVU Black not far behind them there is SDSU with 11 kills, able to get 16 points. Definitely staying relevant. Again, a reminder here that we are looking at our top 5 teams are what is actually going to go through here. It does not matter past that point, so the bubble is very high this time around.
Yeah, I think SDSU with the perfect example of why you want to play that high ground. A lot of the time you'll see a team take a very solid high ground, either top of pylon or that launch pad / north pad height that we just saw SDSU play. And it isn't always a great spot in terms of the zones. A lot of the rings that pull don't pull right on top of them, but the potential you have to get so many kills early. They got 11 kills that game and only got 5 points off of placement because they had that height and they were comfortably playing it, poking at teams around them. Anybody who tried to make anything happen anywhere in the vicinity, they were able to take a couple of shots, and as long as they managed their meds and their ammo well, which seemingly they did, they were able to have just a fine game. So love the ability to take that height early. Doesn't always pay off for teams like that. Maybe it didn't pay off for placement, but 11 kills, that's well worth it.
Definitely here. We're going to get into game number 2 right away. See where we're going to go. Again, nobody really contesting here. I think our earliest fights that we can see break out are just over the bean area, just above Sonode. Because you can see the Cedo Station and Mills team try to walk down and both contest over that loot that is there. But outside that should be, again, a fairly slow start before we see where our ring is going to take us.
My boy Chris B. Bacon isn't here for Florida State. I know Dakeson and Lawrence are here. Chris B. Bacon is not here, and I miss him. Maybe he graduated. I'm not sure. And I know Day is. I think she plays some women's comp. I'm not 100%, but you may be familiar with her because I know you cast some of the tournaments in that. You know, at end of the Apex World.
Not ringing a bell off the bat, but
I think I've seen her name like once or twice, but. She's been around. I've seen her plenty of times in Collegiate, so it's fun to see Florida State back. They weren't in the upper bracket. A lot of teams I'm familiar with in the lower bracket as well, so very clearly a lot of new teams stepping up and doing better than we've seen in seasons past, because plenty of these players ring a bell for me, maybe even more than yesterday. So it's nice to see that a lot of familiar names are still sticking around and playing comp, as it's a very central ring pull for game number 2.
Yeah, very central, going up into the no-name between Wall and Cascades, which can pull right to that building in the middle area. That makes it very, very important for any of those teams to get to that building first. If they're able to claim control over that, they can at least hold it for a long, long time. But it means you have to get there fast. That might mean you don't have the amount of loot that you would like to in other kinds of rings.
And so many teams already pushing for it early. We saw like 3 or so in the vicinity of that pretty much immediately. And I mean, we had to cast a guy named Daddy yesterday. Cougar Magnet is up there as another one of the names that I have to cast, but still, he'll make his way forward. And they're
one of the names of all time.
Yeah, one of the names ever. But it looks like KSU going to be the team who takes that very solid spot. So our first place team after game number 1. Misplays in the gang have already taken that zipline building. It's pretty much the best spot I can see at the moment.
Yeah, that's assuredly going to be the spot to hold. And when you get the rings that don't have a lot of other cover, it's now, can you hold that spot? Do you have the defensive capabilities? And as we've seen in this current meta, it is very, very possible to hold areas for a long time. You've just got to make sure you keep your Evo up. You want to have somebody out there who has the like something like a 30-30, some kind of marksman sniper, to just keep poking people out, try to get Evo up, and try to pressure people from just walking up and taking your spot.
Well, it looks like Viking Cap and their gang are going to start to walk up in the same area. There's another building up on that towards that height, though, so they're not really going to contest KSU just yet. Just kind of happily move in next door. Nobody really nearby, so if a fight broke out between the two, might not get third-partied. But plenty of other spots to focus on rather than the low end of the zip buildings, as we've got CSUF rotating their way up from the southern end, and it's SJSU Blue with Viking Cap, who are also relatively far up the leaderboard. So 2 teams in the top 4 taking what we would consider our top 2 spots of the early game.
Yeah, and this is our team with the Watson that we said needed to get to places early. Yeah. So doing exactly what they needed to, recognizing their win condition for their composition. Very good play by them. And now we wait, because it is all about the teams that are moving around here, like UVU Black, who are already in a fight down on this southern side of the map. They are a little bit away. They're within round 1 already, but they are a ways from where this ring is going to pull, and they recognize that, so they're going to make their way up north.
Yeah, I think the really drastic pull last game made people feel like, you know, oh, like, we got to take a fight now because we're all the way towards the south end of the map. So 2 teams in the positions that we just saw, those 2, might have fought last game, but this time around, it's more central. Maybe you don't have that second ring info, so you're like, oh, we got a chance. We got a fighting chance no matter where it ends up pulling. We'll be able to get in just fine. Less choke points in the middle of the map as well, especially when compared to a checkpoint area trying to get out from there, or unless you want to sneak around down Beast which can also be kind of tough, but still. So I think teams less inclined to fight because they feel like there's way more of a realistic chance at them having a solid spot for the late game, whereas compared to last game, if you were really anywhere, Echo, Devastated, Launchpad, didn't feel like you had the best chance of getting in, but two teams very far out looking for an early fight. That's Oso, Apex Legends.
Yeah, they're getting pushed in and around Barometer. Luckily, this should be just a clean 3v3 for them, but unluckily, they're the ones taking a little bit more damage in comparison. I would imagine they're likely going to get pushed here if they do not keep pressure on. Sentinel in hand for Kimchi, looking around. Maybe ult going to be used. This is a lot of defensive cooldowns. It's not going to do a whole lot. They're in the building already.
They are hawking him down immediately. And TTU Red, nobody even cracked in the process. Discount caught way too far away from his teammates. And Oso lose one very early. The rest of the team just trying to fall off. Not the easiest place to fall off from, though, because of all that open land surrounding the Barometer. So if they're able to post up on the right high angles, TTU Red might well find one more kill or maybe even that full squad wipe onto the retreating members of OSO.
Yeah, I mean, it was being a little bit too far forward, but it was also just late use of the Gibby ult. You cannot use it when they're already up on your building. They're just going to get inside and avoid the ult entirely. So a little bit of a misplay by Oso, but they're going to continue to run here. Kimchi going to stay alive for a little bit longer, but moving up from Jurassic is also getting a little bit tight. Bunny Slope right now, OU Esports do need to continue to defend their position here as Ring actually continuing in their direction. Teams from the north starting to get into it.
Really worried about the threat of a push, but the team on the other end of it just going to zip line away. Thinking better of contesting the team with the bang recently popped, and that is a good amount of space for OU, because if this ring keeps pulling up towards the left, then having all of this choke to themselves means that they won't have to worry about watching their back. So they got to make sure that they continue to hold their backside for as long as possible. And those anchors, if they're able to reliably confirm that no one's on their behind, then they have basically 2 full chokes to play with. And that's a lot of mobility given all the different places that this ring could pull. It could, start to pull a little bit more southwest. It could start to pull back out towards the zip buildings. It could really go anywhere, but they have a lot of room to work with, especially since they keep scaring off the only team that's really threatened them so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for now as long as the ring does continue to go that direction. As soon as it doesn't, the choke point works the other way around, and they are the team being gate kept. Speaking of gate kept right now, FSU Garnet are dealing a little bit of damage in the distance, watching a team in Jurassic try to move up in their direction. They are taking their sweet time on this one because they know they have a lot of time to play with before this ring forces them up any further.
Well, still only the one team that's fully moved on. WVWC Kaiju fully killed off. And UCSD Navy are going to go down next up. They got 7 points last game. Looks like all
off KP.
Yeah, pretty much.
They were kill leaders at one point. They were a team that was over in the Ferrari section just going crazy with it. And they got third partied. And seems like a unfortunate exit this time around as well.
Yeah, it's can kind of happen sometimes. If maybe like game 1 they were trying to play more edge, trying to take more kills. They had 6 points in for game 1 courtesy of those kills, and they had that one extra from being top 15. But some games, you're playing the edge, you lose a fight. That's just how it goes. Confident as you may be going in, it's always good to have the mindset that you can beat any team in a 3v3 that you fight against, but you're not always going to get it done, and this time around they get punished for it. And you really can't afford those 0-point games with the threshold being this much higher. We could expect it to be 40-45 points that you'll need to get at least to secure a spot in the top 5.
Temple White have a disconnect. Oh no. Howell having a little bit of struggles at the moment. Hopefully we'll be able to get him back in. Also want to point out too, lots of teams kind of moving through Command Center. That's going to be one of our new spots that's going to get teams in trouble. As you were seeing your Roy and friends up at Command Center, that is where they dropped in. So they're actually opting to move out and then go back through, which another team has moved in to take their spot.
TTU Red narrowly sneaking in on the edge. Maybe we're hoping on a few more fights to have by this point in the game. They've certainly got their Evo shields quite high, though. Compare that to a team like Oklahoma State, who only have one player on purple, and they're actually starting to get into a little bit of a scuffle for the moment. It's ComTom doing a little bit of damage, having some dealt in response. But for now, it doesn't seem like either one of them super in love with the idea of taking a fight, as TN Tech in a really awkward spot, kind of sticking themselves up against the side of the canyon.
SDSU also in a little bit of a weird spot just because they do have to move here. They can play off a little bit of high ground, but they have to basically aggress on these teams that have been set up in these buildings, and that's not going to be a fun time, because as soon as they do, look at all these teams on the south. These Cascade Falls teams are going to be moving up at the same time into this open air. All of the buildings that have been held down in the south area are going to be not playable anymore.
USU Blue looking for the engage off the horizon. They will find the engage eventually. Heal drone put down at the perfect time, though, and Doc is going to keep the team safe with that big shield surrounding EAOSU. They've got one on red as well, so massive health advantage in this initial fight, and Pobix is going to start it off with the Kraber knockdown. Oklahoma State absolutely on the right end. DZ's got enough time to pop a shield bat as well, and they could start to really pressure this team down below. Kraber could find another one. Not quite going to land it. Komtom Chisu, though, still, or Komtom Cham Chisu still going to get another one. And EAOSU don't get the full wipe just yet, as it looks like Wackety just sat in a corner, but still plenty of kills for them. And USU Blue, not in a great spot, hoping that they just don't get spotted.
We're playing a little bit of hide and seek right now. This is, luckily, when like Seer or Bloodhound are not meta, you can get away with this, but it will just be a bit of a wait. And the nice thing about this, though, is Wackety can just craft banners over at Cascade Falls, get a respawn beacon. There's the possibility to get back in this, even if it is in a really bad situation without those attachments.
Maverick Apex not in too bad a situation at all just yet, but moving up near that waterfall, hoping to not get spotted. That spot they're looking to move in, just outside of Command Center, not fully safe either, and I don't quite know if they have anywhere to go just yet. Very awkward pull. You can't really play that canyon. The choke points are kind of all that you can play towards the northwest side, because anywhere else you're just going to get pushed by a team who's playing towards those choke points, and not really as many teams going to be able to fit in towards the end of this ring. We've got 16, now 15 left up, with some awkward rotates that need to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Newcastle ults are going to be really influential here. That cooldown needs to be used perfectly, as we're also watching OU get some damage down on a team zipping their way into checkpoint. When you're in these spots here, when you're in that open area in between Wall and Cascade Falls, all you can do is try to work off the cover that can exist, and the cover that can exist for every single one of these teams is a Newcastle wall. So if that cooldown gets thrown down early or gets thrown down in a panic, you're all of a sudden in a really bad situation.
Florida State Garnet in a really fun area of the map just outside of Cascade Falls, and having a great time here too. Daxon with a good kill, almost looking for more. The shield batting inside the bubble is the final remaining. Gibraltar for Temple White, not going to be remaining too much longer, as FSU Garnet with a clean wipe. Another team looking for the third party, but FSU already so high on HP and have a little bit of time to pop some shields. And so CSUF think wisely, better of that push, and realize there's not really much of a chance at a third party. It would just be another straight 3v3, and it's just not worth it to take at the moment.
CSU very well set up here. Do have a little bit of a move they need to make going forward, but they've kind of pulled themselves out of the fights that are happening all around the map. You can see just constant poke and 3v3s going on. Not a whole lot of third parties, but a lot of teams looking at it.
TTU Red now tied with San Diego State with 7 kills. That is the most of any team. Again, they're both tied, and they're both inside the top 4 for the time being. So, TTU Red with plenty good to talk about after this game, but CSUF Orange not quite so much. FSU Garnet do lose a 1 in the process, but they keep taking more kills, recognizing they're not in the best spot, so might as well get the kill points that you can.
Yeah, grab the banner. But the question becomes, where do you put that banner down? Where do you get your teammate back in? And might have to run into a little bit of luck. But hey, a finish is a finish. They do get their kills. 11 squads left here as the ring starting to close for round number 4. It looks like that number is going to go down a bit more.
We continue to lose more. It's CSUD Cardinal who go down next up. And that is a top 10 situation now for all the teams still remaining. Dakeson waiting for that mobile shield so they could possibly have some help on the rotate in. Skibs Tofu does get rezzed, but currently in the ring, I think. Actually, he's going to make his way out and start shooting with the flatline, but behind his teammates, about to get caught on his own. And RMU Colonials now start to make the push off of that. They get the knockdown, and there's no chance at a Newcastle res because that Pathfinder was just so far away from the last 2 members of Florida State, and those last 2 members won't last too long. Tennessee Tech go down right afterwards, though, and so now it's top 8 for everybody left with a full 24 aside from Maverick Apex Purple. They've got the height on a good building, but they've only got 2 players alive.
Maverick still in this here as RMU Colonials are also playing very, very low, trying to keep themselves out of the fight. Dome going to be used just to grab some loot from a death box. SJSU Blue are still holed up inside this building here. Blue shields, but still alive nonetheless. And 8 squads left on this means that a lot of teams need to move in, and it's going directly on those buildings in the middle of nowhere.
TTU Red still relatively comfortable. They have the comfort of that low ground at an awkward enough angle so that they can't really be seen by a number of teams. They could either gatekeep the team in the choke behind them, they could look for shots on other teams in front of them, but no one really has a good line of sight on these guys. So they found themselves in the perfect little nook for now. They're going to work their way forward. Work their way forward. Hope to play around the bottom side of this wall, and it does look like they're going to focus primarily on gatekeeping the teams that just haven't quite made it in, and a great shots from Godfather to start the gatekeeping.
Exactly, yeah, they're just holding on this side of the ring here. They have to watch as this catalyst wall goes down because there's teams on the other side right inside that Gibby Dome. They're just pulling their teammates back up. TTU Red need to pull the trigger here as soon as possible.
And they are going to do just that. They don't want to get caught in the wrong spot, not having made the decision to take the push, and the push going so well for them. Early Twigs with a knockdown, Inferno another, and a full 3-player wipe goes the way of TTU Red. Aggressive push from Oklahoma, but it's not going to go so well. The instant they touch down, they will be sent packing. It's UVU Black who actually go down there. It looks like Reds do come through for Oklahoma. We don't have the UI on this perspective for some reason, but we can at least see that OU still standing, and they find themselves in an awkward little corner, but again, nobody has that line of sight on them, so they can pretty safely reset here.
Yeah, this is a ring just going directly outside these buildings, and teams that are on top and inside the buildings are kind of at the edge of this, so they will have to leave their hidey holes pretty shortly. And now all those teams that have not built up their EVO, the teams that have been just kind of sitting passively, they might struggle a little bit as these 3v3s go. Good shots there from the Sentinel.
San Diego State, the team up on the high ground. They were in such good position after game number 1. They came into this game with 16 points in 3rd place. One of the 3 teams that really stood out from the pack after the first game, and they have held their post confidently all game long. TTU Red still alive on the low ground. They also came in the top 5, albeit not as firmly cemented there. They only had 7 points coming in, but they still looked pretty solid coming in. And, well, 2 great games in a row to start off the day. You got to be in that top 5 to qualify into the next day. So certainly a lovely start for them. Wait a minute.
DSU playing off the zip lines here, trying to use the height. They're going to move in and just try to fight this one out. Maverick Apex Purple go down. KSU Black dropping that revive beacon just for a little bit of cover as TTU Red are also losing members.
Twigs down already. Godfather needs some shields back because Inferno Blade's still pretty healthy, but he'll need some help. It seems just fine, and so they win the initial fight. OU is down, but KSU Black finding the kills on the remaining members of TTU Red, and they'll be down shortly thereafter. San Diego State holding out that team, playing the inside of the building, and they were in such a good spot for so long, but SJSU just didn't take the fights early enough. forced to leave their building at the last possible moment, and their dreams are being crushed in that moment as well. SJSU barely get outside, but San Diego State also getting knocked down. So even though they forced their way into the top 2, it's not looking like top 3. It's top 1 for KSU Black, who get the most points in game 1. And in game number 2, they find the win that they couldn't quite find the first time around.
Able to come up clutch there, get the victory, hit the dance, enlightened, feeling good about it. And that'll be a much needed amount of points there to get themselves up and very safely in that top 5. Again, remember, top 5 teams are the ones that are moving on. Bottom 15 here are going home. We are losing 30 teams in total today between these two semifinals.
Yeah, I mean, safe to say that plenty of teams will be sent back home. A lot of these teams coming in from the LCQ, mostly coming in from the Open Division, though some Premier teams surely to be sent home, just knowing how it goes. Top 30 teams will be determined after this game between the 10 in the finals and the 20 that made it to lower semis. But an impressive start for so many teams having good performances in both game 1 and game 2. I was talking about it towards the end there. We saw a lot of those teams up in that last ring between TTU Red, KSU Black, San Diego State. We had so many people who got a good game in game number 1, getting another one in game number 2. And if it was a lobby like yesterday, you'd be like, okay, and not a massive deal, because as long as you're in the top 10, it's just fine. But 5 or so teams differentiating themselves from the pack is going to leave the rest of the pack in a very scary spot, even if it's this early, because again, only the top 5 are getting in today. And so if 5 teams just start running away with it immediately, there's really not much that anybody else is going to be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, KSU Black have kind of cemented themselves into a really high position here. I think that is probably going to be up there to keep them in 5th place off these points alone. SDSU not far behind them either. They've been doing very well today. TTU Red with a good chunk of points from that last game will get themselves into 3rd. But everybody down below, 5th place, now already at 20 points. If you're a team like Temple White or St. Clair Sades, you're needing points really badly because you are way behind.
I mean, really, anyone in that bottom 10. You look at 5th place is already at 20, 11th place is at 4, which this is a very top-heavy lobby compared to what we had yesterday. By this point, yesterday, I think we had a number of teams who were at least like close to one another, but KSU Black, SDSU, TTU Red, UVU, even SJSU, already past 20 points, with a couple of them way beyond that mark. And so many teams have barely even done anything, either maybe a squad wipe or a couple games in a row where they snuck into the top 10, and that's all. So we're going to need to see a good World's Edge out of a lot of these teams, because even a great last Storm Point game might not even get you into the top 5 this early.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're looking, there's already a stark drop-off between SJSU Blue and FSU Garnet here in terms of points. But the big thing here is that I don't think a lot of these teams are going to struggle further. Like, it's what I have seen does not point to me that these teams got lucky in these games and are going to struggle in the future games. I would expect these 5 teams to continue to pull away from the pack right now, just based off of these first 2 games.
I think you said it perfectly, right? It's either an understanding of your team comp, specifically with SJSU Blue. They've gotten 2 third places in a row. That kind of consistency and placement only matched by KSU Black, who got 2nd place and then 1st, and have 25 kills. So they're just playing incredibly well. But even a team in 5th place like SJSU, just understanding their comp and what they want to do. You said it from the jump, the moment you saw Watson in the lobby. They want to get to good spots early, hold them for long, because it's really hard to challenge a Watson team inside the building. So if you can play the best spot in zone, if you can call those rings for later, like they just did last game and like they did in game 1, you'll be set for a pretty solid day. And they've done that incredibly well 2 games in a row. Those aren't really flukes. That's just having some good zone calls and knowing how to play your comp to perfection. And that's only the team in 5th place. The teams who are having even better days than that, well, safe to say that a lot to be expected from them to come in the future. I think the only one who didn't have a necessarily great second game was UVU Black, only getting 4 points, but even still, that's not too bad, and they still find themselves comfortably in the top 5.
Definitely, and I would expect to see them continue onwards and still keep themselves up in this top five. What I gotta see here is teams down below that start to step up because it feels like we saw the same names in both games. I know we did see FSU Garnet get pretty far in there. I think if they had not lost their third, there was a good chance they could start to run away with that game. Hopefully we could get them in a game where that doesn't happen. We get to see what they can do if they are in that full 3-person squad to continue moving forward. But everybody below 5 needs to step things up if they want to stay relevant here, because it's going to very quickly get out of control. Already I'm looking at St. Clair Saints and Temple White and saying, you guys got to show up right now or you're going to be out of the running by game 3.
Yeah, and that is a really early point to already feel out of the running. But I do think part of it can be boiled down to, the rings in the first 2 games, not super similar polls, but you think about you're going North Pad, maybe you end up at Trident, maybe you're Wall. Neither one of those are too difficult of rings to get the prio on, especially in game 1, given how slow we saw a number of teams rotate. So what I'm hoping for in game number 3 is a very different ring pull. I don't know if the ring logic has changed that much, but the Barrow Zone, like the mandatory Barrow Zone, we haven't seen it yet, and I'm expecting it to still happen. Either that, maybe Echo, maybe Lightning Rod up towards just an area that isn't closer to the northwest side, and seeing how some of these top teams adapt, and also giving opportunities at top prio to teams like FSU Garnet, for example, who played really well in that last game in spite of having to rotate all the way from Echo HQ up to the Zip buildings.
Yeah, I mean, it is worth mentioning that both these rings have taken us in pretty similar patterns. And when you have that happen, you sometimes get the same rotates, the same fights, the same outcome, which can change up as we go into our third game. If we go to one of those barometer rings, all of a sudden, everybody who is rotating up into those northern teams now is going to have those northern teams rotate into them, which just vastly changes the dynamic of fights. So we'll see where ring is going to take us. I'm hoping for barometer because I think barometer is a fun ring, even though trying to get into barometer without a Valkyrie is not a fun time. I do like barometer itself.
No, yeah, it's definitely fun, but it's not fun for the teams like we've been talking about, the teams who love those north zones. You're basically having to cross an entire open river the whole way through. Not a lot of catalysts on these teams. The best you have is a path zip, but with enough teams looking at that, it's kind of a tough rotate to make. I know there's the one Valk team in the lobby, so maybe they'll be comfortable rotating in like you had mentioned, but still. Other than Barrow, it could go anywhere down in the south. I think it would be just nice to see a change of scenery, if you will, because it's only been 2 games, so another one going to the same spot. It's not like, oh, they need to change the ring logic. Why do we get all these North Poles? But, too small of a sample size for that. But it's just fun to feel like everybody got a fair shot at having a zone where they didn't need to rotate too terribly far for it. As we get into game number 3, still yet to figure out where that zone will go, but a lot of these teams hoping on something good. If there isn't a South Ring pull, at least happy for the Launchpad team. They got a hot zone this time. Echo got it last time, so they're at least well looted moving forward.
Definitely. We'll see where we go from here. Again, no contests, no fights early. Already seeing Cedo Station move down towards Bean, so they're probably going to grab that before anybody from Mill can even get in range of that. So we'll be a fairly slow start once again, and don't screw me on this ring. Where are we going?
Ooh.
It's still going north, but at least decidedly differently north.
Yeah, it seems to be slightly more of a west pull, although
I think
not
it's
100% quite yet. Yeah, it seems like it might be going Mill. Could also maybe go down Beast. Not going checkpoint because it never goes checkpoint. It's still not going checkpoint, guys.
Yeah,
don't be fooled. This is not going checkpoint. It never goes checkpoint. It just doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, for those who don't know, that entire north section of checkpoint is not legal end zone area. So the only place it can end in checkpoint is Keandrake's spot right now. That's like the only spot the ring can actually end. A lot of times when it goes over in this direction, you go over to down Beast, into that just that area where you have that ramp down into it, and in those buildings in front of it is where it usually likes to end.
Yeah, and Down Beast have the ring console this game as well. So if they have the proper character to get that information, if they know their ring pulls, they see this and they set up inside the Beast immediately. Right? Enough of the Beast is still in such that it's a pretty solid, reliable spot to play for the moment. You are very safe in there. A couple of different places you could rotate out, so it's not like you're trapping yourself for the late game should it not pull directly on top of you. So really, really perfect game for OU Esports, a team who are in 9th place at the moment. They've had decent showings through the first 2 games, but they're really going to get the chance to show out. Unfortunately, very bad game again, very bad pull again for our Southeast friends on OSO and FSU.
It's uphill both ways for them, or uphill 3 games for them,
yeah, exactly.
As they're going to be moving, and they do have to move uphill. They're going through Pylon, going through Jurassic here. Luckily, no teams are currently in Jurassic, so that can just be a move that a lot of these teams can take. Not a whole lot of worry at this point here, but it is going to get a little jank once we start getting into the Ceto Station area as teams trying to move through that. Again, without a Valkyrie, you are in open water, and it's not a fun time.
Still not so many fights this early on, and not a ton of teams rotating through checkpoint just yet. Sort of shades of game 1 with so many teams getting caught up in the middle of the map, seeing other teams and then getting a little hesitant, not quite knowing how they want to rotate forward per se. They've picked up the Trident on Temple though, so maybe a quick rotate around the left end of the west end of the map could possibly get them a good spot in Down Beast, and that's one of the teams that you were talking about. At only 1 point, tied for last place, so in need of a very big game in this one.
Currently also looking at OU Esports, who are set up in where this ring is going to continue to pull. A couple of teams moving in on their direction. Should be able to keep them out for the time being, but they're going to want to figure out which of these buildings they want to try and hold here, because they are not going to be able to hold all of Down Beast themselves as more teams move up.
San Diego State seemingly making their way in towards the Beast, with Keandrake and the gang still towards checkpoint where they landed. Not much of a rotate out of them just yet. Far north rotate for TN Tech, which I believe is Tennessee Tech, but not 100% on that.
Should be, yeah.
They don't always tell us what the acronyms mean. I think when I first saw OSU, I thought it was Ohio State until like they basically got close to winning, and I realized it was Oklahoma. Good opportunity for Tennessee Tech here, by the way, and they get a great knockdown onto Enlightened. Big kill onto the first place team.
And they have got the Sheila coming out as well. They want to finish that one off. You know, purple knock shield doesn't matter.
What even is a
going
knockdown?
Down. Yeah. Just immediately wipes that off the board, and that means Tennessee Tech can just walk forward here and try to take this 3v3. They want to get this done fast here because they will have to keep their eyes open as more teams move in. I honestly do like them just getting that kill and just going for the fight, though.
Oh yeah, perfect. Exactly what teams towards the lower end of the board are in need of. TN Tech, they're in 11th place for the moment. Second team in the lobby to get a kill, and if you were used to what we were talking about yesterday, that may seem just fine. But again, another obligatory reminder that we're looking at top 5 today instead of top 10. You can't say that too much because it seems like in situations like this, it's so often 10 teams moving on that you start watching and just kind of assume that's the case. Nope. You got to be top 5 this time as well. So TN Tech with a very big kill, and hopefully the start of a very beautiful comeback from the lower end of the leaderboard to maybe getting themselves into that top 5.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is out of reach for them yet, right? Top 5 is 21 points. Very doable if you can get yourself a win in a game. But it's not... Something has to change for these teams, and I like at least seeing some of these teams going for the aggression. I don't want to see them panic. I don't want to see them go a little bit too hard and get themselves caught out. But I do think going for kills will hope get the momentum going and make them a little more relevant.
Still no teams to get fully eliminated. KSU Black have lost a couple of members, and I think UCSD Navy only got in with 2.
Yeah,
nobody
unfortunate.
Nobody even grayed out for them, so SJSU seemingly able to get one of the kills onto the other members of KSU Black, that team that was started off in terms of the killing by TN Tech. Also, Apex Legends with a very late rotate here, though, and that's just, again, it's just one of those games for these guys. You're going to need to stick towards the end and hope for maybe some kind of crazy pullback, but I really don't think the pullback is on the cards, all things considered.
Yeah, this one can go up to the trenches, which a lot of teams seem to be predicting. So we'll see where that one shakes out. A lot of teams have already made that first wave movement up to the north here. Now we're seeing these really heavy edge teams, the ones that really want to play with the zone at their back, start to move up into Cedo Station. Lots of teams on this south side here. It's going to get hairy very quickly.
And a lot more of an opportunity for these guys to rotate up the west side of the map around the long way to maybe sneak in the southern end of like down beast where this ring continues to pull. So many teams predicting trenches about to be in for a rude awakening, as it's not going to the trenches. It's continuing to just pull straight towards the middle of down beast. And look at that opportunity that's there for teams like Shmub's team and Godfather's team and even Two Strokes' team as well. Nobody taking that many spots inside of Down Beast itself, and a lot of opportunities open for the future, but FSU Garnet not likely to take many of them because they are caught in between a rock and a hard place towards Cenote Cave.
Still fight this out. They've got to end this fast here. The longer they wait, the harder this rotate will be. And unfortunately, that's kind of just what the meta is. It's going to be long fights. It's very elongated fights. Now the Gibby going down might be the go button.
Certainly could be. And a lot of times this meta, you're able to get that res off, but it just wasn't fast enough of a reaction for Blank. So they'll have to bring the beacon to I completely forgot what those are called, but Beacon. There we go. Yeah, it's
like
the
bacon,
card. It's
but
not
with
the
an extra
beacon.
E.
It's not the beacon. It's the card. I called the card the beacon, and then I didn't know what to call the beacon, so I just miffed it a bit. But they'll have to revive the Gibby, is basically what I'm getting at. And still so many teams towards this time. They're all moving through Bean at the same time. Here go RMU Colonials.
Yeah, and they're getting deep into it. PK shots coming out, not landing just yet, but Gibby Dome will buy some time as RMU Colonials losing shields. Already lost their Newcastle, but it doesn't matter because the rest of the enemy team has been eliminated. That will be a big win for them. They should have time to reset here before the FSU get up in their direction, and they've got to get going now. Round 2 has started closing.
Fortunately, don't need to spend so much time re-healing up thanks to the health regen after the reses for the support legends that new perk added recently. So helpful in that case. UCSD Navy, inspirational duo performance, hoping to pull a bit of a Pulverex in this game as they make their way forward through the trenches, but much like anybody else towards that side of the map, not going to be happy where this ring pulls, as so many of those south teams not necessarily killing each other because they're all recognizing we can peacefully coexist towards the southern side of Down Beast, and we'll be just fine moving forward.
Yeah, we're now seeing a lot of teams hold up in these trenches once again.
Two teams out.
Fortunately, there's a lot of those teams that are going to have to make a move here. Yeah, like you said, top 2 teams are gone. Our number 8 team is gone as well. We still have Temple White here. We're trying to make a big push to get up to the top of the ladder here. Got a long ways to go, but a final game on Storm Point could be their opportunity.
And they are just going for it immediately. They know they need the points badly, and so why wait? Why waste time? Be decisive in getting into the next fight. Nobody taking too many damage yet, as the Newcastle team on the inside of the building, hard to engage into. Nade not going to do too much damage either because it's on the wrong end of the mobile shield. So Temple White just wait. Newcastle ult to respond and break the inside team's ult. That is a creative play from Giggler, and he's going to get some really solid Mastiff damage off the back of it. Needs help from his teammates, though, who haven't quite engaged just yet. Howl comes through along with Frocka, but nobody finding that initial knockdown. Just some cracks on the shield before anything else can go down. Temple White really starting to push this team out, and I think they fully left the building. It's the Valkyrie squad on the other end, and that Valkyrie tucks tail and heads for the hills, as all of Liberty Red's somehow able to get out.
Yeah, I mean, they just used the Newcastle, get their teammate back up the catalyst wall. Also very clutch there. Getting them out of the building, getting them around the side, and just not enough push there from Temple White. Just didn't get enough going, and that's a big miss for them. They need those points bad.
Nice shot from Lawrence to get the knockdown and a gravitate. Dakeson follows it up with a kill onto Blank. They'll confirm that other kill very soon thereafter. And FSU Garnet, tough rotate ahead of him, but still unfazed. They've got 9 kills on the day so far, already 2 in this game so far. A great start for them. And more ground to cover, though, as Maverick Apex Purple just ahead of them, making sure that it is constantly hurdle after hurdle for this Florida State team. USU Blue, they trip over the hurdle they just tried to get past, and whackety-fackety, the last one to go down. That team still in 14th. In need of a good game that game, and they didn't quite get it. UVU Black up towards the top of the leaderboard, also going down. So 3 of our top 4 teams are out. This is the game so many teams needed.
All right, so I said before we got into this game that I did not expect our top 5 teams to struggle anymore, and I think I have caster curse to a degree that I have never experienced at this point, because we have
multiple
lost
teams at once is impressive.
3 of our top 5 teams have gone down first. So little tough there, but does mean the point spread is going to be a lot more even. And like you said, there's bottom teams now. This is your moment. This is the time to close that gap. This is also the time for a team like TTU Red to start going crazy and catch up to that first place finish.
UCSD Navy seeing an opportunity at kills and being just a duo, those opportunities scarce for them. And so they want to take the frags where they can find him. Samuel able to get a knockdown and a finish onto one, but they're getting inted on by the Maggie from behind. Hattie needs help, and the Eva at least going to help out to an extent, but knocked down on the attempted repel away. Great shots from Isaiah. Finish onto the Pathfinder as well. It's one remaining vestige of UCSD Navy as WVWC Kaiju need to make that play forward as they've got 10 kills this game.
Bonkers
already.
Here. They had 3 points going into this. They are at 13 now. They are planting their flag here, seeing all those top teams go out and saying, this is our time. This is the moment we needed to get ourselves up on that leaderboard, and they're already almost at full reds. Honestly, not bad positioning either for a team that has been fighting as much as they have. So
yeah,
honestly, can look to take this game.
And with that comp they have, it won't be too tough for them to start to push other teams. The Maggie Ball send with a Newcastle wall for some cover. They've got every opportunity moving forward. Also, Apex Legends, well, they had some opportunities, but seemingly didn't quite reach the mark this time around. FSU Garnet, ever the hard-stuck edge team, playing out of Echo Zone. Again, with a solid start to this game in terms of the KP, but what position are they going to look towards? What are Cachao and Devalancia going to look towards moving into the next ring? There's not a lot of open spots for anybody other than teams like SJSU Blue, who worked their way into Down Beast and have just taken down OU Esports, the team who landed on the Beast, only getting 11th place from a decently low spot on the scoreboard. Just not a good enough game for them.
Temple getting back in their fight at checkpoint here as shields going down, both the shields at once there, and that is not working out for them. Last member trying to get him pulled up. Temple White not holding anything back. Last shot from the Mastiff works out, and Temple finally get themselves on the board here. A big win for them on top of the fact that they're in top 8.
Really hard rotate here, though. They're about to walk into an RMU Colonials team that is fragmented they may be, still in the way, can still deal some damage, and any damage that's dealt to Temple White going to make it infinitely harder to get out, because FSU Garnet are going to be staring them down on their attempted rotate. But FSU Garnet seemingly distracted for the time being, and they themselves have got to make the same exact rotate. These two teams not looking to be in great position. SJSU Blue just trying to hold this building as much as they possibly can for the moment, because it's still in the next ring. One team trying to exist outside of them, and Temple continue to frag out as they take down FSU Garnet, and everybody on Temple is still alive. They could Newcastle wall forward and take a spot outside of the walls into the Down Beast. Top 6 remaining teams as WVCWC Kaiju continue to kill. Great shots from Keon Drake. They've got 14 kills, and they're not content with just that, as Liberty Red will be the 6th place team this game.
Now already down to 5 squads, and that fight means that the team inside SJSU Blue, one of our final top 5 teams still up, that is going to ape them. And now another third party has come through. Mastiff shots, not enough, but finally Temple White are popping off.
3 squad wipes for Temple White out of possibly the worst spot in the ring coming into this. They're now the ones in the God spot. WVWC Kaiju, though, are about to make wherever they play the God spot, given how much armor, how much loot, and how many kills they've got in this game. Momentum is a scary thing, and it's going against you when you fight against the Kaijus. However, Keondrake incredibly low. OctaneCollegiate needs to drop off, and now they've caught the attention of Temple White. So both of these two teams trying to engage with one another, being stared at by the Owls up from the height. Massive damage dealt by Faraka, and basically nothing either one of these teams can say in response to Temple.
Yeah, Temple can just gatekeep both these teams at the same time, and they're going to have to run into each other for this. Already got a knock on 2 strokes. Temple White are just forcing the issue between these two.
From possibly the worst spot coming into Ring 4, and now Round 5, all of the power in Temple White's hands. It's been a great game for WVWC Kaiju. They've got, I believe, 14 kills up to this point, and Keondrake still not content with just that. They almost find a kill onto one member trying to cross to the other side of the gate, and it's just 2 strokes in the gang down below, waiting for someone to make the mistake, hoping, praying that they're able to stay safe in this position, but it doesn't look likely.
Yeah, I mean, what they want is somebody from Kaiju to get knocked before the ring forces them off the top rope there. Temple White are just putting pressure down. If they can get a kill, they can get a knock, all of a sudden down below, they have a much stronger chance of actually taking that. But the fight's going to come out, and it's not looking good.
That is a really rough spot to find yourselves in. Fortunately, the Newcastle-Gibby combination will keep the team down below up a little bit longer. And a knockdown found for Otia Duke. That is a massive kill for Kaiju, and they could possibly make a play off of that. Res facilitated already, though, and there it is. That's just the meta at the moment. Big nade for Keondrake on a Maverick down below, and that's going to take down a big member of that down below team. But Kaiju are inting on Temple White. They need to stay up and stay alive. Might even take up the spot inside the building as Kaiju have taken the height away from them, and a big knockdown to start it off. Maverick Apex now coming in for an attempted third party as Temple White can't get any better than third. Can Maverick shut down the unstoppable Demon Kings of Kaiju? It doesn't look like it. It's only the Newcastle, and it's no one to stand in the way of WVWC taking the 3rd game on Storm Point and taking your advice of those lower teams on the scoreboard needing to stand up now.
I mean, huge plays from a couple of these teams. Temple White go out in 3rd, but still a great game played by them. Lots of points going to be going in their direction, but Kaiju just popped off. Taking every team out. And then I want to call out specifically that zip play right at the end. As soon as they saw the knock, they got ready for it. Once that member got back up, they continued to try and poke. They were focusing on the team below. And then Kaiju took the opportunity when they weren't looking to just zip across, get the high ground above them, and fight from that. Temple White were not prepared.
And that quick, decisive decision to just make the play, even though you just did get a knock, but the res was found really quickly, because that's just what Newcastle enables, what all these support legends enable these days. But just making that play so quick and so easily, like it was just second nature for WVWC. A lot of teams, when they're put on the ropes 2 games in, feeling like they're already on the outside looking in big time, down where WVWC Kaiju were coming into that game at only 2 points, they'll start to play things a lot more scared, and they just don't quite look the same. Not Kaiju. In that case, they look as confident as ever, and they will step up massively on the scoreboard for it.
Yeah, Kaiju going to be looking good. Speaking of scoreboards, take a look over here as Kaiju have just jumped up there. I want to take a look at what the actual standings from that game was, just to see what they ended up with. Yeah, they had 20 kills. That was a 32-point game.
Wow.
They had 2 points going into this, and now at 34 in 3rd place. Also want to call out Temple White, had 1 point going into that, 17 points now. So a lot of these teams that were kind of seemingly out of it already have pushed themselves up into the running here. All it takes right now is one good game. As you can see, Kaiju were irrelevant in the first 2 games. Now they're in the top 3.
And I also do want to point out specifically Florida State Garnet and Temple White, both having had a pretty solid day so far, in spite of not getting any luck with the ring pulls. I think Temple were going Barometer, if I remember correctly, and I know FSU Garnet were going Echo. They got just about 3 of some of the worst ring pulls they could have ever asked for. including Temple White being stuck on the checkpoint side of things when the ring was closing behind them, making their way into the God spot on Downed Beast by killing 3 squads on the way. So we've seen a lot of promising stuff out of both of those teams by this point, but they just weren't quite getting the ring pulls. So going into World's Edge, if they get 1 or 2 more fortunate ring pulls, we could really see a lot out of them. We're going to cut to a 5-minute break before we get into World's Edge, though, to give everyone some time to wind down and figure out what the strategy is going to be going into these last 3 games. It's put up or shut up time, and in 5 minutes, we'll come back to show you who's going to make their way onto the lower final. Welcome back to the second half of the day of one of 2 semifinals that's going on right now. We are back for even more Octane Collegiate. It's only about a 5-minute break in between games numbers 3 and 4, and we'll be switching over to World's Edge for the end of this set. And very excited to switch over because we've had a very good start to the day for a number of our teams. And it's really time to show up big time that hopefully a couple of these teams outside the top 5 are very confident in their World's Edge.
Yeah, I mean, now the question becomes like, okay, we had those first 2 games that was like, oh, we have a pretty defined top 5, and now we're at a spot where all of that went out the window. It's just completely gone. Doesn't matter anymore. Everybody's kind of back on the board, especially anybody in this top 10 is very relevant in that top 5 situation. Now, World's Edge taking us to a new map. How are teams going to adapt? Are there going to be any composition changes? That's one of the bigger questions that we have here. I wouldn't expect anything compositionally to change, but you do have to adapt here, especially if you're going from a zone drop to a edge drop or vice versa.
Yeah, and smaller map compared to Storm Point, maybe some of those rotates will be harder to get to. If it pulls very extremely to one side of the map, you might have a really tough time, from Climatizer getting to like Thermal Station or something like that, because less time to rotate. More teams are going to get there sooner than you, perhaps. And not a lot of teams towards that Climatizer side, as nobody landed Epicenter this lobby, so a lot of space for St. Clair's. A lot of space for St. Clair's, who, let's just say, need the space right now, because last I checked, they were at 1 point, and right now they still are.
Yeah, we'll give a lot of space for them. Being able to grab 2 POIs is pretty big, even though they're not the greatest POIs. They're also going to grab that tunnel area, which is very crucial to just get a lot of extra loot. That very northern section there has really solid loot, and it's usually fought over, but it does seem like they're going to get there first. Also keeping an eye on Fragment Monument. That's where a lot of early fights can break out as well.
And 2 very topical teams, given how much who we've been talking about a lot. WVWC Kaiju really taking the attention last game with a 21 kill win. And Florida State on the other side. They've been a big talking point for me because of how well they've been playing in spite of having very tough rotates 3 games in a row. This time around, a more central landing spot, probably going to make it a little easier to get into some of those optimal spots earlier on. But this, not necessarily a great ring pull for a lot of teams. It is a very hard Lava Fissure and Mirage Trois pull immediately. And it looks like it's even touching the edge of the ring there. So it might just continue to pull to that west side.
Yeah, this one's going to keep going. Could go either way, honestly, on this one. So not sure if it's Mirage Trois or Lava Fissure, but definitely going to continue to go in that direction, as teams are going to have to move from that. Again, southeast just is not a fun time to be on any of these maps, it seems. So we'll get very far up there, and Temple White are one of those teams on the southeast.
Yeah, that Temple White team that had such a good play out of the worst possible position and then didn't win out of the best possible position. So definitely reaching every end of all of the spectrums last game in terms of the emotions of it, but still very impressed by how they managed to play that situation. And Temple White with a little bit of an easier rotate this time around. So again, talking about some of those teams that didn't have an awful lot of ring luck last map. No reg for Inferno Blade is unlucky because there's a crack, but they will get knocked down anyways. And that's Digital Gamer going down early. KP on the board for TTU Red as they put the other squad on the back foot. Finish now. Found it's a 3 versus 2.
Good start for TTU Red. Another team that's kind of up in the standings here. They're right on the bubble at the moment, and they want to keep their points going to just make sure they do not get chased on. Did not have a great game last time around, but we're one of the few that stuck around longer than, I guess, our top 3. But Temple White, honestly, not going down without a fight. I really love seeing the change that we've seen from games 1 and 2 to games 3 and 4 for Temple White.
Yeah, they're getting way more aggressive. Nice thermite nade to get a solid burn onto one moving into the house.
He's running out of ammo.
Yeah, does need to be careful. Might just incentivize even more kills that need to happen, because tough to, even by this stage in the game, find anything that's been unlooted. Finding more energy ammo, so you might just need to find a squad wipe, but TTU Red not going to make that easy. Retreating away. They're getting chased by Temple White, and they're putting the chase onto one, and they do get a knockdown onto Tonto. So, a very simple kill as the zip line punished. And I think that's Oklahoma who lost one there. Actually, no, I think it's TN Tech, actually. The only team to have lost anyone. They've lost 2 and leave the lifeline alone.
Yeah, it's both going to TTU Red, so a very good start for them. Gonna elongate their lead above 6th place. Lots of teams getting into that western side. Mirage Etoile becomes so crucial, and it's an awkward place to fight from because it does have that high ground, very much so, above everything around it. And then you look at Lava Fissure, which kind of does match the level of Mirage Etoile, so that high ground is matched on another POI, but as it starts to move, it could get a little hairy.
Certainly getting sketchy for Maverick Apex. They take some damage, but not in the worst position in the world. Maverick cracked again. Seemed maybe the namesake of the team, as Schmalz, the only one yet to be cracked in this fight. Two Strokes goes down first. The counter ulti here from Maverick Apex a little bit too late. They might be able to find the knockdown of the one, but the EVA 8 not even able to do the job. Nice kill with the Gibby ult at least to knock down Kachao and make it even, and the finish as well. And that's your Newcastle gone. So the res ability significantly lower on RMU Colonials than it was just a moment ago. And now seemingly forced onto the back foot in this fight, but I think they're getting third-partied. They are. Fixed and Schmub able to come through and finish off Maverick Apex Purple, leaving RMU Colonials with only 2 players alive, but certainly better off than Maverick.
Yeah, tough to take a fight this deep into the ring as everybody's starting to rotate. It is not the best decision, and that does cost Maverick Purple a lot. It does mean Revive can come through. It might be an alarm sound for the team that just third-partied, but might also just be a bit of a sit back and chill moment here. I don't know how many teams want to continue pushing hard unless they know they have a winning fight.
Seems like TN Tech were able to get the full reset, so they're now back up to the full 3-man. Everybody alive is at that full 3-player squad. I think I heard another res ship come through as well, but regardless, everybody is still going to be up at that full 5. And look at that cluster towards Mirage Etoile. So many teams rotating early.
Yep.
Knowing they need the wins in these games, perhaps the opposite response to what we would expect, right? You think you need a massive a massive game, and you might want to be more prone to taking edge fights. In this case, so many teams very prone to getting into the ring as soon as possible. Slight fight towards Lava Siphon, and a lot of teams towards Skyhook, and that's kind of all the action that we're seeing on the edge for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get to Mirage early because the problem is that Mirage has very good buildings to hold, but very few of them. So you want to be able to get there early. If you're caught on the outside of that, you start to struggle a bit. Now, Newcastle does solve that problem a little bit, but it is still not the most fun time.
Yeah, not the most fun time fighting against the Newcastle either, but not the most fun time having to get here so early. A lot of these suboptimal spots, like the one that TTU Red are shooting at, maybe not in the greatest of position, but Temple White seemingly walking on TTU Red and looking like they might want to take a fight. Engagement now found. Powell cracked, but the Pathfinder up on the height cracked as well. And Temple White not big fans of this fight. They don't like the angle that they're taking it at, so they just decide to fall off. But on the other end, TTU Red are dying to a completely different team, and they've left one player alone who's now somehow got to find somewhere to go, with both Twigs and Inferno Blade being dead.
Rough spot for them. Still seeing teams move in. Nice knock there. I love the charge rifle. Oh, I think people sleep on this gun because it does stuff like that. Obviously, can't do a whole lot off of that, but man, it feels good every time.
I didn't necessarily help that much, but my dopamine is much higher than it was before, and my Evo shield is a little bit higher now. As EA OSU getting landed on seemingly below, the team looking for the RV spot. They will manage to take it. Fix has been finished off. That wasn't the knockdown we saw with the charge rifle, but it's a knockdown elsewhere. Just to make it a little bit tougher for the team inside that building right now. A lot of Newcastle's dying earlier than you would like, but for now, everybody's seemingly still just chill inside the buildings.
Yeah, it is going to be some downtime at the moment. A lot of these teams still able to hold out in Lava Siphon as the ring will continue to close. The big one does become when we start moving closer to Mirage Etoile. Those buildings have already been grabbed up for the most part, and anybody coming in from that northern side is going to have to sit on the hill, which does leave you kind of vulnerable.
And so many teams having rotated in so early. Teams like SDSU are going to be in for a rude awakening when they try to go for really any spots, and they're kind of all taken. Ring 4 does seem to be an awkward pull, though. More south than some teams might have been expecting it. Really pulling directly on top of Mirage Etoile towards Countdown. It's WVWC Kaiju in an early fight, and an uncharacteristic death early on for them. Isaiah able to respond with an Arc Star, though, and knock down Aquino of San Diego State. Rez immediately thereafter, but I think both sides were able to get the revives off. The Newcastle walls popped on both ends, and they've hit the stalemate. Not sure who's going to take the engagement first with who on the other side, but San Diego State opts to fall back just a little bit.
Yeah, they're going to take high ground here with the Pathfinder, but Kaiju are feeling strong here. You can see them just pushing up. They don't care about the Newcastle wall. They still want to keep pressure on. And with the Maggie, they're able to do so pretty easily.
And that Zip tried to take away, but here comes that Maggie herself. Does land the last shots onto Aquino. And now they're abandoned out in the middle of ring at the RV. They've got to rotate out soon. Otherwise, they're just going to succumb to the ring damage dealt by Kaiju. Maybe just content to think that he might get the kill credit. But they do want to rotate to a slightly better spot to maybe get that full wipe onto SDSU, who are going for a very wide rotate through landslide to try and make it back into the ring. And Kaiju can't even see him anymore.
So the thing is, they have a Newcastle with a gold res. And right now, that means you just don't die to the ring as long as Newcastle doesn't. Because Newcastle can keep pulling you up, can keep walking while pulling you up, and you still get the heal while in ring. So it does do a lot there. Oh no, Tennessee Tech, they just don't have meds.
Oh, that's a shame. Almost looked like WVWC, or not WVWC, but SDSU were about to walk into Oso towards landslide. Nothing happening in the kill feed yet, though. It's Temple White instead, the ones getting active in the kill feed. Hat D taken down, and TU still have everybody left alive. That is until Turbo steps in and nearly kills someone, but can't quite get the finish. And your Newcastle was the one that died, so you can't use that mobile res right now. There's a team up above, so even if Temple White come to get this finish onto the team inside, they may not be long for the world afterwards. Nice knockdown onto Hatto, who ends up going down right after he gets picked back up, and the whole team will fall. And Tangy AC with a triple feed onto Oso Apex Legends to take down that squad in 18th place.
Yeah, crazy that we've had this much action, and we still have 17 squads here. A couple of them have lost members for sure.
Look at this pull.
We are continuing just towards Mirage Etoile. As is kind of tradition here, usually round 4 just still stays within Mirage Etoile, at least to some degree. It's why it's such a good spot to hold early. If you get there, you're safe there for a long time before you would have to worry about dropping.
So many teams going for those spots inside of the Mirage Etoile itself. And now all these teams towards Lava Fissure probably going to eat each other alive as TCU Red left with just one player alive at this point. Only really a couple players towards the choke point coming up from the thermal station down below as well. So that's what I'm keeping my eyes on if I'm rotating in. And if you have that information, you could definitely take that choke. And it's Liberty Red nearby, fighting over who gets the right to the RV, which will probably become the God spot as we move forward. Stumpia and the last 2 members of Liberty Red, though, are so low, and they'll get taken down. But God's Faith knocked down by a nade, and they could easily get pushed here. Kachow gonna get knocked down too, and SJSU Blue, third party at the perfect time, and they might have the best spot in the lobby as this ring might keep pulling towards them.
They're going to go a little bit north here. They're going to get their way into the building and very quick to move here. Nobody already holding that. Lots of fights around, including on this northern side.
And another one. It's UVU Black, the ones on the right end of it. And Sleep King and CSUDH on the wrong side. WVWC Kaiju also looking for a third party, but Duke has died earlier. And so this third party not going to be super effective as long as UVU Black don't lose anybody. Lawless so close to death there. And it's CSUDH Cardinal also incredibly close to death with Crazy Ninja and Drew barely hanging on. And somehow both ends of this building still alive, and WVWC Kaiju haven't third partied. It looks like they're just going to completely abandon the idea.
Yeah, and honestly, don't blame them here. Just try to stay alive. I don't think you were going to win that fight. Just continue to move out, especially as you watch that third person get pulled back up. So a good disengage from them, see where they're going to go, because there's not a lot of space to work with here. Round 4 about to close in 15 seconds, and UVU Black Kraber in hand. Going to try to open up some space for themselves to move up.
They'll have to make a lot of progress forward. RV again, heavily fought over, and it's SDSU who will hold their post. SJSU just north of them, with Viking Cap and the team inside the building, and where ring 5 is going to go, basically nobody inside of the ring just yet. So many teams now abandoning that north side. Great 100 banger with a nade for misplays, and he even gets the knockdown on the Keandre. WVWC Kaiju feeling the hurt.
And that's a problem too, because that is a solo left for Kaiju. So KSU Black gonna move up. Did they get the revive? No, not gonna go for it. Just a little bit too risky, and you can see exactly why, as UVU Black pepper some shots from the Rampage into the back there. Now, UVU Black don't have great ground to work with, because now they've got to drop down, and the Kraber not as good looking as it was before.
Bubble fight enables them to try and do something here, but the escape from the Newcastle, smooth moves to get up to the height and keep themselves alive. The UVU Black in a pretty solid spot. They can continue to play down here, it looks like. They just got to find the right spot of the low ground, but they will be alive. Speaking of, TTU's Inferno Blade still alive as well. Barely keeping himself up on the Newcastle, but OU Esports getting sent on by a Newcastle themselves. An Interceder about to die. Barely any health left on him, but he'll keep himself up. Teammates could possibly use it as bait, but no, they've left him to die here. And they've actually all stacked on top of one another. The res now facilitated for Mank as Aquino needs to finish, and he gets it. SDSU leave all 3 alive after a big kill.
SDSU played that absolutely perfectly. Just swung up. The Valk was mid jetpack in that fight. Just goes down almost immediately. And then they swing on, take the fight down below. And as they get that last person low, it was not the Newcastle trying to greed and finish the kill. It was my third player's coming in. I just got to revive my member, so we're there for a third party.
And speaking of, it's UVU Black looking for the initial engagement on top of Mirage Etoile, but a beautiful stand from DZ up top with the Eva, almost making it 3 with the Nemesis. Does get knocked down by Lawless though, so 1 versus 1, but DZ's teammate has it on lockdown just fine. No, it was Lawless who actually wins it. Kills the last 2 members and ends up fully sending that squad home. We've got 6 of our top 7 teams alive, and then the other team in 16th. So the top-heavy lobby that we stay in will continue to get even heavier towards the top. Everybody but Tennessee Tech already was looking great coming into this game.
SDSU currently have high ground to work with, and they are going to make the most of it, but they don't have a lot of time to use it here. They will be able to sit here as the next ring closes, but as the final ring gets its spot, they're going to have the ring at their backs.
Can't see anybody with the overlay. That was unfortunate timing on the UI. We did get UI'd, but couldn't see where everyone was. KSU Black in a good spot, though, and they seem to be finishing off FSU Garnet, who are again getting gate kept from having a massive game, consistently just have to be okay with solid performances. They stay in 7th, but they won't get too much further on than that. They probably won't get past because there's only 1 team alive below them. But that's a bad situation for them, as they won't sneak into that top 5. Sneaking on, going loud on top of Mirage Etoile, and we've almost got a full wipe. A double knockdown, it needs to be the 3rd, but instead, it's the full wipe instead. And I think that's Lawless, who just found all of those kills.
I don't know where we are anymore.
Yeah.
Any of these teams could be anybody at this point. I don't know how many squads we have left.
We do have a rat.
We do have a rat. But that it is a little difficult at this point to figure out where things are going.
Yeah, so Incroc and Wheatwoot still up top. Elixirs and Enlightened down below. I think Enlightened was on KSU, yeah. And so
CSU are still on that high ground on the other side too.
That's influential. I think all of these teams are pretty high up on the scoreboard. I think we saw TN Tech try and send, and that was the only team we had that wasn't towards the top. So the rich get richer in game number 4.
Yeah, but now the high ground gets lower as we push forward here. The ring gonna tank a little bit of damage, and now these teams that are down below, they are waiting. The Sharks are smelling blood in the water, and that is already 1 knock there. Newcastle as the Gibby Dome goes down. A big problem. Cut his zip over. Not going to make it. And that is SDSU just firing freely.
Viking Cap with a massive set of kills, and I do think SJSU Blue might be the top dogs after game number 4. Just holding that high ground as confidently as ever. It's UVU Black, the last team to go down. Seemingly nobody else has gone down since, but only 3 squads with 5 players left across them aside from just SJSU Blue. And so these guys have basically scraps to pick up across the rest of the lobby before they're officially declared the winners. They do manage to eliminate one ret. That's TN Tech. So the only team alive outside of the top 8 will go down in 4th place without too many kills, as it was a rat. SJSU Blue still waiting on some of these players down low to finish him off, and it now is the 3v3 between KSU Black and San Jose State.
Yeah, KSU Black put up the evac tower. Not going to be able to take that. They do have a zip. That zip could be huge. They're going to evac tower for the the confusion here. Oh. Now Nade's coming out.
Misplay's looking for the stick. He can't find it initially, but he finds the Mozam shots perfectly. That's the opening that they wanted. Nobody down just yet. Misplays gets 2. It has to be Elixirs, and it will be KSU Black shutting it down in game 4. They will secure their spot towards the top of the leaderboard, and after their 2 consecutive top 2 placements in game 1, they fall off the mantle a bit in the 3rd game, but they're back on track on World's Edge.
Yeah, I mean, really smart play. They used their evac tower. I think they wanted to go up on that, but then had the third party show up to try and had to finish off those stragglers. And then they used another evac tower as a distraction. It went up. The team up above was looking at it and saying, we got to shoot that down, so they still get stuck down there. Completely forgot about the possibility of a Pathfinder zip to get up to the top. And by the time they got up there, Mozams were out, nades were flying, and they weren't ready.
And not at all. It was a great game from KSU Black to take away that high ground from SJSU, as it was just 2 rats, and then KSU and SJSU. I was under the impression that KSU, who I think were the team we watched zip over, had lost a lot in the process of going for that zip, but they didn't really. They still seemed pretty healthy, all things considered, once they had made it to the opposite side, and so they end up being in a pretty good spot because of it. Certainly we're looking good to qualify anyways, but I think after that one, they might be the first team today that we can say is safely into that lower final.
Yeah, we'll see here as we got our standings ready. In KSU Black, yeah, there's not a chance they're going below 5th with 68 points, so they can rest easy here on these next 2 games almost assuredly. SDSU also in a pretty good spot with SJSU Blue at 52. Things look good for that top 3. I would argue to say that top 3 is pretty locked in. The only reason I'm not saying definitively is because the possibility of 2 0-point games and UVU Black and Kaiju have the ability to get in range there. So if UVU Black or Kaiju have a bad game in game 5, we could be looking at just 1 spot available between the teams that are left.
And just 1 spot is not the easiest to make up. At the very least, it's a hotly contested 1 spot left between Kaiju and UVU Black being tied at the threshold.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can at least maintain that story, but very firm line in the sand, a very bold line in the sand, a better way of saying that, being drawn at the 5th place margin with Kaiju and Black. Just, a slight border Kaiju and UVU Black. A slight border discrepancy as to who exactly is that 5th place team, but other than that, we do seem to have ended up in one of the more anticlimactic lobbies we can end up in, where it feels like we've firmly wrapped in 5 teams. It's just which of the 6 is it going to be? We need a massive game out of any of those bottom 14 teams for the standings to change at the moment, and that's what we'll be hoping for is, that competitive game 6, always what you're looking for in matchups like this.
Yeah, gonna be, again, dropping in, and UVU Black and Kaiju are the teams I'm kind of keeping my eyes on here, because as of right now, I think because of KP, UVU Black are the top dog here. They are technically in that 5th spot, but we have 2 games to go. Both these teams have had some pop-off games, too. They've been fighting really well. They just have not had... Kaiju has had that really big moment. Can UVU Black get the same?
Still waiting. See if that could be the case. UVU Black have made their way this high up thanks to a very good game 1 with that win. EAOSU, though, losing ComTam very early. I'm just going to stop at ComTam because I think every time I've tried to say the rest of the name, I've botched it to some degree. So it's just Com going down fast, and the rest of the team really not that close to Com. So they do get the card back. They can get the respawn pretty early. I'm not 100% sure what happened there.
Yeah, I'm not either, to be honest.
Back up. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, it should be A-okay. Team's already starting to move towards tree. Or, sorry, not towards tree, towards launch site at the bottom there. So, gotta get a little bit of action early, because a lot of teams, the thing about World's Edge is there's a lot of teams clustered in that southeastern area between Stacks, Mod, Dome, Lava Siphon, launch site. There's a lot of teams in and around there. It's not a far rotate for them, and you could get some fights early on.
I'll take that back.
And that very extreme ring pull. Furthest out that we've seen.
We're going south
so far. We are going south. Yeah,
it's finally south.
Yeah, finally. New map. Still didn't even see south the first time, but we finally do end up on the southern end of things. Temple White's certainly happy with that, as they're one of those teams who's close enough to top 5 that with a very good game they could start to sneak their way in, but they would also need pretty rough games out of UVU Black or TCU Red or WVWC Kaiju, at least a couple of them have rough games. But they're getting the pull they wanted, so pretty solid start. UCSD Navy getting aggressive here.
Yeah, and I think they have to. Like you said, they can close that gap, but that gap is going to get closed by them being aggressive, by them getting kills, and they're already starting off great as Kimchi goes down, and they're still pushing, climbing up onto the enemy team.
None of them even cracked yet. Hatto finally going to lose some serious HP, but they already found another knock in the meantime. And one player cracked in exchange for an entire squad wipe. I don't know about you, but I'm certainly taking that trade every day of the week towards the dome.
100%. Very good push. Did not waste time on that. Because of that, even though a lot of teams are in that vicinity, no one's going to be able to push them, especially because everybody has kind of come in from the north or the west here into launch site.
Well, only one team eliminated, and nobody fully dead outside of that. Brocka knocked down by a charge rifle. Given where they were on the map, I'm imagining it's just some poke going wrong. I don't think we'll see anybody get finished on Temple. But Keandrake on Kaiju finished off, and so it looks like those teams outside of the top 5 getting what they wanted. Very early demise seemingly on the cards for WVWC, but instead it's St. Clair's going down. So two teams.
Kaiju went down.
Yeah, they fully went down. Wow. So yeah, the teams outside the top 6 getting what they wanted from at least one of those upper teams. And other than that, two teams that were basically not in the competition, still not in the game, just trimming some of the fat earlier on, but also setting up a solid storyline for later as esports at Oklahoma State get a good knock and almost a full wipe.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say RMU Colonials have an opportunity alongside FSU Garnet, but it is...
Nope.
RMU Colonials going out. So FSU Garnet really the only team within striking distance to try and still stay relevant here. UVU Black is still up and strong, but if that team goes down, FSU Garnet have a good opportunity for themselves.
FSU Black now chasing down that full squad wipe that we just witnessed. Pathfinder Zip going to enable them to get even closer. And the smoke down in the little canyon down there is making it evident that KSU Black are pushing a little far forward, and they might be able to catch someone isolated too far away from the teammates. Good knockdown for DZ, but Enlightened trades it immediately, and DZ's teammates are nowhere nearby. Calm Tom with another response, though, and the Mastiff going crazy in close range. Might even get the finish onto the last, doesn't quite finish off the last member. Elixir's looking for a finish, but the last member comes through. Take your KP, you can have it. We're going to take the full reset. And the full squad wipe at that, nobody even in the same vicinity as OSU.
Yeah, so they'll be able to just reset here. Should be A-okay. Respawn beacon, even they go for that, nobody's going to push them. Closest they have is Two Strokes and company down below. But I don't think anybody's going to want to take that fight. Still a couple of teams up north, but we've actually had a lot of these teams already get into launch sites. So a pretty safe and secure rotate for a lot of these teams.
Doesn't seem like it'll be pulling directly on top of the launch site, but so many teams already in there. It's looking like that's at the... Yeah, it's pulling more towards the dome, that outer area between dome and launch site. So teams already starting to fight each other without that ring info. UVU Black, one of those teams that is themselves the threshold for qualification at the moment in 5th place, getting a very good engage onto the inside. Lawless TTV with a massive opening for UVU. And already a confirmed kill. They've gotten 2 confirmed kills by now. And the inside of this building, now theirs. They may think they have the God spot, but well, next ring, not going to be so kind.
Yeah, ring going to take us into the middle of nowhere here. Like you said, not going into launch site. And these rings always hurt here. Look at all the teams that are on the edge or outside of this next ring. It is literally all of them, because how do you play when half of the ground is lava?
Well, you certainly could try and make it work. Purple knockdown shield. No shield to counter the purple knockdown shield like we saw earlier today on Storm Point, but CSUDH Cardinal trying to engage off their knockdown. And if that was a Newcastle knockdown, then this could be a very solid decision for CSUDH. A knockdown onto Maverick again, it looks like. And now they're going to continue this engage. No chance of the res. They could easily get this finish, and even if they don't wipe the rest of the team, perfectly content to take their kill. But they actually look like they want more. Drew challing the Newcastle wall, but yeah, Nade's big issue. Crazy Ninja going up by himself, gets a knockdown, traded out by Schmalz, who's now the last one left. And he might just have to look for the Finn, because I don't think there's an awful lot left for him. He runs out of ammo with the worst possible time, and that's a clean wipe for Cardinal.
And for Cardinal, they got to reset now, because in comes another team. Not going to get pushed on it, so they're okay. But yeah, teams are just all over the place right now. I think very quickly about to realize that this ring is going to be a little sketch when we go forward here. Round 2 has started, closing a minute and a half until that happens. I don't expect too much action. We do have Comtem and a couple of teams on the outskirts that'll try to move in, but everybody else pretty solidly in position here.
I was getting excited for Temple earlier this game, as they were one of the teams down towards the launch site. I think they actually landed there.
Ooh, there's a fight
now,
going on
two
there.
banners they need to craft, and they're getting chased down by someone else. It's TN Tech looking for a kill. Can't quite find it, but like you said, fight going on nearby. It'll be Temple White, the next team to die, though. So, top 12 for all those remaining.
Temple, unfortunate there. They could not make it any further, and that is going to be a little scary now, because this is game number 5, and they were at 21 points. They had a lot of ground to make up, and while our 5th and 6th teams have gone down, now the question does come up here. How much ground can be made up? Because UVU Black has overtaken. They're no longer in 5th. They are off KP alone in 4th place, and it has become 40 points. That is the threshold. FSU Garnet have not really gained anything yet.
EAOSU already with 5 kills and a Valkyrie on red. 2 other teammates on purple, though. So if they start to work their way forward, they could end up in a decent spot, but they're seemingly about to rotate right towards where Liberty Red are. They're coming in from the tree side, and I hope they don't make that rotate too soon, because they're about to realize that that isn't the best place to go. They are a Valkyrie team, though, so a lot of teams about to get caught off guard by this next ring, and I think EAOSU could easily end up with one of the better spots moving forward, with the Valkyrie on board to take away Godspot immediately, because it's really only 2 teams towards the dome right now. They could easily make this work.
TSU gonna lose this Newcastle shield and gonna just go for the ulti here for the high ground. Drops back down, now just looking for the poke here. They're splitting up a little bit here. I don't like the use of the Newcastle ult, and that is the Sentinel. Hitting hard.
Viking Cap with a huge knockdown from range, gets a chance at another one. Unlucky no reg, doesn't land the second shot. 75 perp onto the last one walking up. Can't get another knockdown, unfortunately, so won't be able to really get a ton of KP off of that engagement. But is at least able to watch overhead and see if anybody presents the opportunity to be third party. Cardinal presenting themselves to Viking Cap and losing a little bit of HP for it, but certainly much better off than Tangy AC and Aquino inside, who've both gone down. Finish onto Tangy. Aquino not likely to be long for the world. And a valiant effort put up by SDSU as they do get the knock on his Sleep King, but Siphon is firmly under CSUDH Cardinals' control. It's not going to help so much, because in 3 seconds' time, that's not going to matter.
Yeah, this is the ring that's going to hurt people. We've already lost a lot of teams, so it's a little more playable, but these teams on the western side here need to make a push. OU Esports is one of them, and you can see them already hurting. Mozam's firing up above, and maybe it's time to try and go for a Valcult if they can.
Could be the time to come. TN Tech sat in a very good spot towards glass building. They'll have good oversight on the rest of it. And OSU do Valcult for that southernmost eggshell. They're trying to just play that open area for now. Valcult now for OU as the brothers of the OSU team in Oklahoma. Interceder trying to make their way forward. Interceder barely hanging on to life, but still sneaks in all the same. And nobody's out here right yet. There is a team inside, that's UCSD Navy, who've been playing this spot since we saw them get a wipe incredibly early on, and they're now showing presence. Oklahoma not in a great spot.
Definitely not, but it's the only spot they really had, and at the very least, they are still alive. 11 squads still up right now. Round 4 going to close in a minute and a half, and everybody in launch site is going to have to move out of that one.
Rampart lends the shield to Aqua, and Aqua having a little bit of fun. Does solid damage to OSU down south, and they are still a 3-man, fortunately, but Rampart wall going to be taken down, so Aqua not safely able to play there as much. And there's one player who is bordering on the edge of the next to come ring, and it makes sense because it is not the next to come ring, but the one after that towards round 5. And it's Florida State, darn it, in that spot at the moment, but they could be easily taken down as they are very much out in the open. And so many teams going to have the chance to take down these teams like FSU and OU Esports as UCSD sit back and wait for the opportunity to take a fight.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at OU and saying how long till their Newcastle Ultimate so they can put that down and keep themselves a little bit more safe. As now, in comes Lawrence with the nades on the Watson. Maggie ball in response. Only the single Mozam there, and FSU Garnet still struggling on that. They've lost a member. Jaxian is almost gone as well, and Lawrence, last one alive is Blank. Barely survives, but the third party comes in. CSUF Orange get the victory.
FSU still yet to be finished off. They have the Watson still standing, and Lawrence is just sat in a corner, I'm sure of it, waiting for the inevitable. As so many teams in that interesting spot still standing. Yeah, the fuse on board for CSUF. It's have fun. That's what it is.
I mean, I'm not
here for a
complaining.
good time, not for a long time, but they're having a good game this game. As CSUF, maybe the fuse mag was what they needed because they're on 7 kills this game. The kill leaders at this point in the lobby.
I mean, yeah, they're definitely going for kills with that kind of a composition, and specifically trying to just pressure out these walls being put up between the Gibby and the Newcastle. So I do like the idea. Does mean your rotate power and your defensive power is nowhere near as strong as other teams, but is worth something.
Really cheeky res towards the end for Povix as OSU barely keeping themselves up. They're one of those teams that could possibly challenge with a phenomenal game the teams towards 5th place, but it doesn't look like they'll get that phenomenal game. So many solos, you're right. All of those teams from 7th to 9th are fragmented as ever. And so I don't think we'll see anyone really break into the top 5 after this game. UVU Black trying to firmly cement themselves beyond just 5th place as they made it up to 4th off of this game, looking for even more KP, and they're going to find solid damage. Knock and finish from Wheatwoot, who gets another one on his Stumpy. And UVU Black are dominating this game so far. Liberty Red and EAOSU both taken down. And so, scoreboard in a very weird spot at the moment.
I mean, we did say that UVU Black have had really good fights. They've just not had their pop-off game like Kaiju did. Now it seems like they're having that pop-off game, and Kaiju may have hit their peak a little bit too early because they are falling down the leaderboard here in 6th place now. Couple of points off TTU Red, but the big story here is that FSU Garnet are still alive here, even as a solo.
CSUDH also just outside it, and any one of those 12th to 14th place teams, if they get enough off of a win, if they get enough kills, maybe we could see them start to challenge that 5th place as well, just increasing the number of teams who could maybe benefit from another rough game at a TTU or WVWC. Ooh. Big send from UVU Black, though, as they continue to dominate. They won game 1, looking for more in game 5, but already down is Lawless. Weepu needs the response quickly, and he just can't find it. Oh, you stuck inside the other side of the bubble as Inkrock coming through with big damage. Knockdown for Pius at least as a response to parties, but it's Inkrock with everything he wanted and more. Res now possible onto Lawless, and UVU keep 3 members alive.
Yeah, and they get the revive there with the Newcastle, so they're able to reset the Gibby Dome, helping them out huge here. UCSD Navy firing from the distance, and we do have our lone solo there of FSU, and SJSU Blue get eliminated. 4 squads left, one of them being a solo.
And one of them being UVU Black, playing spoiler to all these teams on the low end of the scoreboard, possibly taking those points away, and I think that's the solo it is. Drew of CSUDH Cardinal taking down. FSU already went down earlier, it would seem. And UVU Black now contesting for the height, but they are being seen by everyone in the process of this. It's not the play. They just need to pop the bubble. And after all that, they fall off immediately. So, rough decision there for UVU Black, and for a great game for them so far. Fortunately, still the chance at a win.
I can't even blame them for making that call either, because it's like you don't expect the other team to be already up on the top there, and unfortunately just can't do anything about that. They have to drop back down. If there was not a team at level with them, they would have felt a lot better about that jump.
That Pathfinder of Turbo is in a bad spot, and he doesn't have the grapple. He just went down and couldn't get back up, giving it away. Greeted for a little too much loot and gets punished for it. Now, UCSD Navy had a chance at making a miracle happen in these last 2 games, but I don't know if they can get enough points off of it as just a duo. I think CSUF Orange might be in the God spot here.
Yeah, they're definitely in a really solid spot, and now with Navy being as, neutered as they are, UVU Black is the big team to watch out for, and that is a team down below who is trying to make the rotate. They're already taking some shots.
Great shots from Cougar Magnet, as we finally got the chance to say his name in a big position. Gibraltar gets cracked 2 times over the Maggie drill in, and that Gibby ult is massive. You're absolutely right. The damage from all of these nades, they were playing for kills, but it might just get them a win in the process. They had plenty of kills before, and a UCSD Navy peeking out at the perfect time to pinch the UVU Black roster in the middle, but they're all still so high on health. All this sustain in their composition, working to their benefit. CSUF Orange starting to pressure from the high ground too, though, and they want to do damage to UCSD Navy, but Syndicate almost punished, and so he elects to fall off for just a bit.
Yeah, the fuse ult coming down, just keeping everybody separated. Navy have been able to hold off now, but can they continue to do so? UVU Black fighting from the low ground, and it's not working out for them. Here comes Navy.
Haddo with the first knockdown. That's massive for them, but the Newcastle allows the res to come back in for UVU Black. They're still at a full 3-man. UCSD Navy know they can't take the initiative because they're only 2 players to the good, so they have to wait for something to happen, and it is going to start. CSUF Orange trying to take the play onto UVU Black, but they die first. Lawless with a big one, another one for UVU Black, and they're going to wipe the slate clean in their 2nd win of the day, cementing themselves as another team to join in the lower finals for sure.
Beautifully played. UVU Black were just so strong that we said time and time again they are fighting really well, and that showed up in this game. Tried to take the high ground, realized they couldn't. I am glad that they didn't try to force that and make that work, and then they took the fight exactly when they needed to. Getting that member down on Navy was really what cinched the deal. When you didn't have that member on Navy, that team is no longer a threat. They're just a spoiler threat at that point. You take the fight with USCF and just can't do anything from that. They win that fight, walk up on Navy, and just finish the game.
And that's just really the strength of all that sustained in this current meta. You have the high ground with Fuse and Maggie in like 99% of other patches that have happened since the game started, or
Yeah.
at least since, I guess, since Maggie and Fuse have been introduced, more technically, but still. You have that position and you win almost every single time. Then in that spot, there's so many constant heals, the ability to revive so quickly and get so much health back immediately that UVU Black, playing that comp, they can afford to maybe not make mistakes, but get caught out just a little bit. They weren't even really doing anything wrong. They're just in such a bad spot there. But every time something would go wrong, pop a shield, pop a res, get some heals off immediately, and they're still alive on that low ground, so they can just wait for the perfect opportunity to be given to them. And the instant CSUF are on the wrong side of the fight, well, so much of your util and the legends you're bringing is invested in dealing damage, and the damage you dealt wasn't enough. There's not really that chance to get back once you end up on the back foot. So outstanding play from UVU Black to consistently be put in the wrong spot and know how to respond only 5 days into this new, so pivotal patch. Incredibly impressive out of them.
Definitely, yeah. We have our scoreboards ready, so let's take a look here. KSU Black still up at the top. UVU Black also have locked themselves in. And now we are looking at really just a 2-person race realistically here for that final spot. TTU Red at 40 points, Kaiju at 37 here. FSU Garnet not able to close that gap enough. Technically, Navy is within striking distance relatively as well, assuming TTU Red and Kaiju go down early, but it's really looking like it is down to 1 spot left between those 2 teams.
Sure is. Kaiju now out of the picture, looking in at TTU Red, who also didn't have necessarily such a great game, but still some other teams who stand a chance. UCSD Navy have looked much better on World's Edge thus far with their best game of the day last game. They still stand a chance. They're only 10 or so points away. Another rough game out of TTU Red and WVWC Kaiju with a game like that out of them could mean good things for them. Really, any of these teams in the 20s with a good enough game. I mean, you're looking at CSUF Orange, a win gets them up to 32. They would need a lot to go right of the teams above them not having good games, but still, a lot of these teams could be contenders, specifically just outside the top 8 or so. Some of those teams, high 30s, low 20s, or low 30s, high 20s, could stay competitive with a last game win. And that's what they're hoping on for so many of these teams.
We are closing in on the end here. Again, TTU Red and Kaiju are the teams that we need to keep in mind here. So, SDSU already getting a little bit close range here to the team that dropped at Skyhook East. So, might turn into a little bit of a firefight right from the start.
Certainly will. And this a symptom of it being the last game and it being dire straits for so many of these teams. I mean, you might as well go for the full 3-on-3s, because if you don't, you need some of these teams like USU Blue, for example, I think would need like a 40-point game or something like that. Yeah, they have 8
Time
points
to show
by
up,
this
guys.
point. Yeah,
Let's go.
8 points by this point. You're going to need like a Yanya 23-kill performance like he had that one game a couple years back to make it competitive. And another fight towards Monument is FSU Garnet taking some early damage. Good kill early, and it's WVWC Kaiju. You don't need to take an early fight, but they choose to anyways. And Florida State Garnet go home.
And that is Kaiju taking their wins into their own hands here, recognizing we have to get points. Let's not just try and get placement points and play safe. Let's make sure we are in that top 5, so a big win for Kaiju.
SDSU now engaging. Early damage dealt. Tangy able to get the rezzed back up as well. Aquino knocks down Gravitate, and it is not looking good. USU Blue had a really, really outside chance at making it. Needed several things to go right, and like a 20-30 kill win. Just get that idea out of your mind right now. They're dead in 19th. Oh, wait a minute.
Number White in trouble. Another Mirage coming in. That is so tough. Howl cannot make it happen, and also Apex Legends are back on the board here, running again. We're just going the wild comps at this point.
Yeah. Let's have fun, guys. Alter, Mirage, and Newcastle composition. You still needed to play a little bit of meta, so we do still need the Newcastle, but...
The Newcastle is just good. We can't really remove that one. But you know what? Screw it. Just throw in the Mirage and Alter for fun.
Yeah, make the 3v3 team fighting as good as possible, and then a chance at Rez's.
And then Mirage.
Just kind of, whenever you want them. And then, just put Mirage in there. Why not? Have fun. CSUDH chasing you.
You put some salt in my food. Yippee. This is fun spice.
CSUDH. Oh, nice shots for Drew. Shutting down Maverick. And this is just a totally different game. I promise we did not switch over to a pubs lobby. The stick there, and it kills two. Full wipe almost goes to Crazy Ninja. Drew's ends up killing the last one, taking his full wipe away. Over to streamer building go WVWC Kaiju, as they are fighting their lights out early and on in Fragment. We might see teams guaranteed at least one placement point out of this before Ring 1 even fully closes. There are 3 teams in Fragment right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is the panic setting in, right? These are the teams that are, like, looking for fights, know they need a lot of KP if they even want to stay relevant here. It's going to turn into this aggression. OU Esports also another team that really would need a massive game to get into that top spot, but does look like it's going to be Navy backing off as they take a lot of damage, and there goes one.
Pius with a huge entry kill for OU. And Navy, that was one of the teams we were looking at. It's possibly an outside threat. They've already lost Turbo. CSUDH, the other team that could maybe be an outside threat, but then as FSU Garnet died, you got to go all the way down to 10th place at 24 points for OSU to get anybody else who might stand a chance. And so I think our last game might end up being kind of anticlimactic beyond this point. St. Clair Saints still trying to have some fun, but don't be fooled. This is just extra reps. It's kind of like a scrim for them because they are at 4 points and they need to get up to at least 40 to get anywhere, and I just don't think anyone would have that in them. OSU also dying. What is going on?
I mean, hey, St. Clair just doubled their points off KP here, so, like, good for them. OSU now trying to just fly in. The Newcastle res is too good, and that's a gold res too, so Comtam can't make that work, and OSU gonna go down.
And look at all of that counterplay. Look at everything you can do about the Newcastle gold res. Just so much that he was able to do in that situation. Not at all. San Diego State end up with that full squad, staying alive, getting the wipe. And, well, we've gotten basically all the interesting teams by this point in the game either fragmented or completely eliminated. It's kind of just CSUDH Cardinal that are not just TTU Red and WVWC Kaiju.
Yeah,
I mean, we haven't fighting over the rest of it.
We haven't even gotten a chance to talk about where the ring is going. Ring going towards Fragment. It's just been fight after fight. When you just kind of drop in here, we're gonna be going down to the middle area there in between. This one can stick inside the buildings, but I would expect this one to go down south outside of Fragment.
Another Harvester fight, or another fight. This one towards Harvester. The first Harvester fight I think we've seen this game. But I may well be wrong because we've probably missed at least a few full squad wipes. And not too much of a Harvester fight happening anyways, as Oso Apex Legends decide to drop out of that engagement real quickly. Basically, as soon as they started, they choose to duck back out. Now it's WVWC Kaiju versus SDSU, and perhaps the most influential fight that we've seen up to this point, but team's not really full committing right now. So many teams have already died. And nobody else feeling the need to take those full fights at the moment. It's TTU Red with a big engage, though, and that's one of the teams on the borderline. They are barely above WVWC Kaiju at the moment, and a huge nade against them might just make their fight a little bit worse.
Gunfather does drop down and get the shield bat off. And right now, Kaiju and Red are tied in points there. That 3 KP was the difference maker. They're going to still look around for this here, try to keep pressure on. If they can get some KP themselves, they're going to elongate their lead just a little bit more.
TTU Red on the back foot big time. Twigs stuck in a really rough spot. Needs to pop the evac tower to try and fly up higher. Does reunite with his teammates. That's all that he really wanted. The Rampart Sheila trying to shoot out the evac tower so he's not able to fly away on it, but that wasn't the plan at all. Twigs, though, knocked down, and that's a big problem.
Twigs down is massively bad for TTU. They are going to lose that member, and it is just OU just going in. They see the opportunity, although they don't have the chance to get in there. I think the revive came out before they could get in on the fight, and that does mean that TTU do reset in time. And now in comes Tennessee Tech, who are pressuring onto OU.
Great crack. Tonto with a massive opening. And TN Tech have the chance to make their way forward. They're just sat here, though. They want the opening to possibly sneak into the next ring because they are not safe in the spot they currently sit. And I am shocked that TTU Red is still standing, thanking their lucky stars because Kaiju are in a pretty solid spot and already have 3 kills. So TTU Red not safe at all in the top 5. Basically, the only team inside the top 5 right now that isn't safe, and it's just that TTU Red versus WVWC Kaiju that we'll need to worry about in the future, as TN Tech look like they need to find a different spot to head into the ring.
Yeah, not an easy move for them. They're still looking. Nice shot with the charge rifle, but only does so much when you're looking again at a Newcastle on the other side. Like this rotate. I like this move to get over to the left here. It's not the most fun rotate for your team, but it is one that should be able to get over safely. Does not get a knock, but oh, you want to go on this.
Yeah, they think they have the damage to open it up, and not too many Newcastle or lifelines or anything like that on the other side. And without the Mastiff being noticed here, Interceder has the easiest couple of kills of his life. Pius ends up with the credit for 1, but I don't think Tonto, too long for the world, he couldn't quite get back to the choke. Oh, it's wraps. Chalk the game, chalk the day for TN Tech. A valiant effort through a couple of games, but they'll end the day out towards 15th place. OU Esports now getting shot at by someone else. And I think we DC'd again.
It is unfortunate.
Yeah, really rough timing.
Yeah, this is a little sad there. We're gonna send it back here and see if we can figure out our technical issues, but I mean, well, we at least can say that TTU Red and Kaiju are still on the board, and they are still trying to rack up those points. And the thing about it is a lot of other teams are taking those KP away, so they're trying to get fights, they're trying to get KP, but everybody is bloodthirsty in this final game.
Yeah, I'm glad that we saw TTU stay alive as well, because without them, it would have kind of just felt like a foregone conclusion of a top 5 once Kaiju got an extra point in that game, which could have been gotten pretty simply, but just not a quick enough conversion from OU Esports to convert on that knockdown they found on the zip away. And so TTU Red remain alive at a full 5. That is very, very fortunate for, I believe, Texas Tech University is TTU Red. And now they will continue to engage in Kaiju, so that we at least have a storyline to follow, right? Not really the outside chances at teams way out of the top 10 getting maybe a massive game in a first place and a 30-kill win to somehow claim that could happen. But the more likely storyline is just Kaiju versus TTU Red. We'll see who's maybe going to sneak in over the other. And better than nothing. Grateful that we have at least that to get excited over heading into the later stages of the final game of the day.
Yeah, I mean, things look a little hectic here because, like we said, same point total with the KP. TTU Red have not been able to really get anything for themselves, which means, okay, as teams go down more and more, placement points don't matter until one of these teams go down. Up until that point, it is just KP that matters here. OU Esports does go down. UVU Black continuing to just their crusade, apparently, as they have been dominating the back half of these games.
Yeah, something about us saying a team hasn't had a definitive game yet today. You mentioned it right before UVU Black dominated the whole lobby. It happened yesterday when we had said that, I forget which team it was, but it was whoever got like the 31-point game. I want to say it was like Southern Miss.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but they got like a 31-point game.
I was like, oh, these teams are probably out, and then they took that personally.
Oh, yeah. So maybe we could have the same effect this game. As I do want to see the little ticker on the right side pull up soon, because I am curious if anybody else's massive has gone down yet, but it looks like we still have our big two of WVWC Kaiju and TTU Red fighting over that 5th and final spot in the lower finals.
I don't know if we'll be able to get it up, but does now put us in suspense a little bit at least. Do see SJSU Blue who are just walking into a firefight. They're gonna lose a member. UVU Black are just wiping the floor with them, shields or not. 3 red shields and SJS Blue already on the ropes.
Total of 150 extra HP across the entire team, and yet Fix gets ripped immediately. Viking Cap does win the 1, but traded out right thereafter by Encroch. It has to be the 2 versus 1 for the last remaining member, and Navy Turbo gets absolutely dumpstered as Navy are actually moving in on the third party. Turbo did get res, so UCSD Navy could still be a storyline yet to come if they have a huge game and not a lot out of TCU or WVWC. They could still sneak in. Everybody on the team's still alive. They're confirming a couple of kills to possibly find some more KP, knowing they need it. But chaos on the streamer building. They somehow find a slight bit of stability in the middle floor. Nice kill on the walk-in for Lawless, though, is going to make it so much better for his team. But nothing yet off of that down. But a third party coming through again from KSU Gold.
TCU Red are still up. KSU Black down below at the bottom of this building. They're just continuing to look on this bridge because that's really the one spot that is going to be threatening for them. They can't close this door. They can't keep a team out. So they have to fight them for it. And there's a big crack there, but they can't push on it.
And not quite, because you saw the Newcastle exists, so Rez could easily come through right thereafter. Mank, the one knocked down. Not 100% sure on what legend he was, but thanks to the catwall, revives should come through for the team out on that bridge. That's Aquino and Tangy of SDSU, a team who's had a pretty solid day so far, and Lawless is left alone out towards the other end. I think that's UVU Black's Lawless, or it's one of the, he's on one of the teams that I feel is pretty safely secured into the top of the leaderboard. UVU Black, yeah, that was Lawless of UVU Black. He'll go down, top 10 for everybody left, and I think Kaiju might be a solo.
Ooh,
I think I saw Otia over towards the far east side of the ring. Alone.
If that's true, that's a really bad spot to be in here because everything riding on this game.
All right, look at him.
Yep, that is a little tough. Navy continuing to poke away here at Liberty on the other side, and I don't know what you do if you're Kaiji right now because you are stuck between a rock and a couple of firefights.
And look at this UCSD Navy, a team that I had written off once they lost an initial player in an early fight. They're the most realistic team to get anything out of it that isn't already in the top 6 and is still alive. They could very well sneak into that 5th position if we see rough games out of both TTU and WVWC Kaiju, and Kaiju goes down to 10th place. They're out. It has to be TTU getting a solid game, otherwise there might still be a chance for UCSD Navy. Good kills for SDSU. They're going to eliminate Oso. They weren't too big of a team anyways, so that's just more points to the teams who need it most.
And TTU are still up. They're getting placement points at the very least. Kaiju are gone. They are not moving forward. TTU Red, though,
they found a building.
Still looking here. They do have this building in ring at the moment, but teams flying around. They want to try and get some of this KP because Navy is closing in on them.
But look at SDSU trying to grief their game from out far. Great shots for Mank with the scout. Try and put even more damage down on them. And TTU Red look over towards Streamer. And I don't quite know which floor UCSD are on. I believe they're on the roof of the building. Damage heavily dealt to Twigs, and I would imagine that is from Navy. St. Clair's gonna come through with the push, and Liberty Red eliminated, so more kills towards St. Clair's. Definitely too little too late, boys, but I'm glad that we saw you show up today. Maybe you'll sneak out of last place. And well, a nice game for them anyways, just to send themselves home on a good note.
Pop the door open. Round 6 here as it actually goes down. They're getting swiped by his team on the side. Newcastle Rez will try to make this fight doable. Is going to get Digga back up, but has to immediately pull this Pathfinder back on his feet. And St. Clair Saints go down, and in comes another third party as Colonials go down. It's TTU Red with a big win for themselves.
They're burning, though. They're kind of getting low. They need some time to reset, but the next ring is closing. Final ring of the day. We have UCSD Navy still alive and TTU Red. Those are the teams we're keeping our eyes on. I think the WVWC Kaiju are out of the competition by this point. SDSU already firmly in next weekend. Could possibly play spoiler here as well. Uh-oh.
CSD Navy are looking here and had to getting hit pretty hard, and there comes the Fusel as well. KSU Black are pushing the issue, but they're not winning the firefights just yet. Gotta get another knock now, down to 1v1, but in comes TTU Red, who are ready for the fight. KSU Black get eliminated, and TTU Red may have just signed their papers into the finals.
Yep, they're going to be headed to the lower finals. They'll come back next weekend, and maybe the cherry on top of the win on the final game of the day. SDSU still with a chance as Mag putting in heavy damage with the Mastiff. They won't get the confirmed win, but TTU Red, unless there were a ton of kills for UCSD Navy, should be your last team making it through out of lower semi-final B. And a very long day for them. Kaiju just barely not coming up clutch with the game that they needed, and in spite of a valiant top 3 effort from UCSD, another team in that top 3 is exactly who they didn't want it to be in TTU Red.
Yeah, that's so unfortunate because Kaiju were trying to have their big game again. They were trying to make it happen, and they could not get it going. Unfortunately, left as a solo, then eventually found out, and TTU Red, pressure was on. They showed up, and they showed up big time to lock themselves into that final spot. I also do want to shout out Navy. Like you said, they had a pretty good game last time around. We said, they were kind of just pushed. Unfortunate hop up into the bottom area of the map. But they did do a lot this game as well. And I hope that they at least feel good about that final game. Hopefully that put them close by so they could at least feel happy with their performance on the day.
And let's take a look, see if we can lock it in. Was it TTU Red to take that 5th spot? Our standings are ready to go. I knew the one time I threw it, it wasn't going to come up immediately, and I was going to feel really anxious. Yep, it is TTU Red who take you the spot, that last spot, and it is a pretty significant margin as well. UCSD Navy didn't even really come too close, as I guess they just didn't get a ton of kills. Solid placement for sure, but not nearly as much of a competition as we had thought. Very firm line, so you can 100% say that all of the teams who made it out, easily the 5 best teams of the lobby today. Not something you often see. There are often maybe some tiebreakers or really close margins where you feel like, oh, if we had just done one more thing right, we would have won today. Not to be said at all about the lobby. We had a 17-point gap between the 5th place final qualifier in TTU Red and the 6th place WVWC Kaiju team, who just couldn't seem to get much more than that one massive game they had at the end of Storm Point.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate because they popped off really hard in that game, but just could not get themselves back on their feet. TTU Red, yeah, they showed up when it was necessary to, and big props to them. Also, big props to our top 4 who we had locked in for a good bit there. We didn't really see much movement out of those top 4 from the beginning of the day. We had that one game, that one Twilight Zone game on Storm Point where they all kind of went out early, but for the most part, our top 5 was pretty locked in throughout the day.
Yeah, I mean, every single one of these teams at some point was in the top 5 way earlier, and I want to say this was literally the top 5 after game 1. I don't know 100% if it was.
I think UVU Black was not up there.
I thought they won game 1.
Did they win game 1? Oh my goodness!
I swear they won game 1.
I have the memory of a rodent.
Yeah, UVU Black won game 1.
Yep,
so they
there
were
we go.
definitely
All
up
right,
there.
don't listen to me. I'm dumb.
So it's no, because you after game 2 were like, oh, I don't know if we'll see these top 5 drop off. Game 3 was the exact opposite. You said you had caster cursed at everybody. You were 100% right. It just took a little bit to get there.
Yeah. Okay.
Wear
cool,
that
cool,
as a
cool.
medal of honor that you
See,
literally
guys,
predicted
I'm
the
smart.
most lopsided lobby.
Happy said I'm smart. We're good.
I did.
Like,
I said that.
You can't flame me anymore.
Wow. But yeah, I mean, managing to have the read and it being that one-sided as well, 100% right that we saw a lot of promise out of every single one of those top 5 teams for the first 2 games, and every single one of them stayed in that top 5, and not a very massive, not a very big, or rather a very big margin between that 5th and 6th place team. So 100% on the money, and those will be your top 5 teams heading into the lower finals out of this lobby.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to say, like, this does make me really excited for the lower finals, because now it's like, oh, the teams that are going up there are definitively the teams that are competitive against those lower finals teams, the bottom 10 that we had in our upper finals. So I don't know who was the other 5 teams from the other lobby that is going to be going up there, but definitely, at least from this lobby, it's going to be a very competitive series just to be getting into those grand finals, and that's so very exciting for me.
Yeah, very exciting indeed. I don't know if you'll be here next weekend or not. I won't be, but the lower finals will come back on this Twitch channel next Saturday and Sunday of next weekend, starting both at 3 p.m. No 7 p.m. Eastern starts like we had last night. 3 p.m. Eastern. To this upcoming Saturday, the lower finals, top 10 teams from that lobby go to the grand finals, which is a week from today on Sunday, starting at 3 p.m. Eastern, just like today was. And hope to see you back there on this channel, because it'll be a very exciting end of the season. But that's the end of my season. That's the end of our day today. Pleasure, as always, to cast with you, Tessa, and a lovely time all day long. Exciting day of Apex, but it's about time that we say goodnight. So thank you so much for joining us. Please come back next weekend to see how the whole season concludes. But until then, have a lovely week and make sure you're back next weekend.